able to impact so many people.
Very important in my life. He knew how to light up a room. He knew how to make everybody laugh and feel welcomed.
I mean, he's the kind of guy that, you know, you'd love to have a full crew of them.
Just cherish life, cherish the people that you're around, because we never know when our moment is going to be our last.
Moments from now, the Kansas City community will honor the life of KSHB firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman, who died in the line of duty this past Sunday.
You're looking live inside Pleasant Valley Baptist Church in just a moment in Liberty, where the funeral for Hoffman will take place. We'll have that momentarily for you. When that begins, we will carry that service in its entirety. We're glad to have you with us this afternoon.
And throughout the past week, we have heard so much about Hoffman, including who he was and the impact he has left on so many people who knew him.
And throughout our coverage this afternoon, during the funeral and the procession afterward, we will share those stories, listen to the community as they honor a first responder who lost his life early on Sunday. A reminder of what brought us to this point. This all started very early Sunday morning. Graham Hoffman and his partner were transporting a patient in an ambulance. Police say that patient attacked Hoffman with a knife in the back of the ambulance. He was taken to the hospital and he died later in the day in ICU.
KSHB Chief Ross Grandison called Hoffman's death a tragic loss, and he shared this in a statement saying, quote, "Kind, caring, compassionate, and dedicated, Graham gave his all to this department and the community he served. Graham made the ultimate sacrifice. We are eternally grateful for having known him and for having served with him." Hoffman worked for KSHB for 3 years at Station 42 in South Kansas City. Before that, he worked for the Belton Fire Department.
And friends and family tell us this week that he just loved his job. Here are some of the ways that we have tried to remember him this week.
Graham was a vibrant individual who loved life and loved serving his community. He was an excellent paramedic who treated his patients with the highest level of skill and compassion.
He knew how to light up a room. He knew how to make everybody laugh and feel welcomed. It was an honor to be his friend.
I had to kind of pinch myself and remind me that Graham was so young, because he just had this quiet confidence about himself. He was very hardworking, but he made things look easy.
That's what I remember about him. Kid that came in to class each day with a smile on his face.
Now, we have seen the kindness of Kansas City on display since Sunday when Hoffman died. That includes community members hanging signs and bringing food to Station 42 where he worked, and multiple fundraisers being held to support his family. One of those, an embroidery and screen print shop that is firefighter owned and operated. We talked to them a couple of times this week.
This is something, these shirts will be around for a long time. You know, people will wear them at the station, and they'll, you know, wear them, you know, on their days off, and when other people see it that knew Graham or that are firemen and remember what happened, it's a way to keep him in your mind.
It's absolutely devastating. Our hearts definitely go out to those guys. We get messages like this all the time because this is what we do. But each time it still feels personal to us.
It is now 1 o'clock, which is the time this funeral is set to begin. You are looking live inside Pleasant Valley Baptist Church in Liberty, Missouri this morning. And you can see, and we know there will be members of several fire departments and people from all over the country coming for this.
That's right. We've talked about the fact, and we'll detail that coverage later in the day as we bring you this funeral and procession after the fact, that so many members of the Kansas City Fire Department will go to this funeral, of course, and other fire departments from around the metro area will fill in and continue to work for them if there are emergencies that come up during the day.
And even bringing some of their equipment, so there can be Kansas City Fire Department vehicles in the procession that is going to be coming after this. We have a full roster of speakers we're expecting to hear from throughout the day, but we're showing you the procession route, and we're going to be detailing more of this later on, but we're curious about some of how this route is put together, and we have a guest with us we'll hear from in just a little bit, who was detailing us before we began our coverage this afternoon of exactly how much time and effort it takes to put a route like this together, and many times that includes going past
past previous stations where someone who died has worked, and there are multiple stops where they are going to want to go past physical stations where Hoffman may have been involved. It's going to start at the church in Liberty, head down I-35, then 71 Highway, turning at Bannister, arriving in front of Station 42 in South Kansas City, which is where he worked, and we showed you that just a moment ago where the messages were left outside. It will return north by taking 435 before ending at Whitechapel Funeral Home. We do not expect any kind of graveside service this afternoon.
And you had a chance Monday to be outside that fire station 42 where he worked. Talk a little bit about what it's like
It's
there.
just off Red Bridge Road, and obviously I went there at 5 o'clock in the morning, but
Right.
it's if you're not looking for it, that's what I was kind of struck by whenever I went there on Monday morning. If you're not looking for it, you're going to miss it. It's a small station. It's kind of tucked away there on the corner of the road. It's quiet, and you can feel familial just standing outside of it. You can see the grill outside, that kind of thing. Anyone who's ever spent any time around a fire station knows that it's like a second home for these men and women who work
Absolutely.
there, and that's what it felt like when you drive. It's a neighborhood when you drive by.
Yeah, and when you're looking live inside Pleasant Valley Baptist Church, we do know that Graham Hoffman graduated from Park Hill South High School in the Northland. This is maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes east of that. This is the church I grew up going to. It's a big sanctuary. A lot of community events are held in this space. I had high school functions here, and it's a large place that can hold so many people for a service like this when so much of the community wants to come together and be a part of this service and mourn with this family.
And talking about the impact just from a physical distance standpoint, we detailed this in the days after he died. He worked in South Kansas City, but was working in the Northland when this happened. He was
Right.
filling in an overtime situation. His primary position was in South KC at Station 42, but this happened far north of that, several miles away in an entirely other location.
And we have reporters outside. You see they're standing. It looks like they're getting ready to get started here. Look at how many uniforms you see in the audience as well. We have reporter Charlie Keegan outside the church. We have crews along the procession route, and we'll be with you for the entire service again, and we will go to that as soon as it starts, and we'll also be following the procession live, which we expect to begin at about 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Let's listen for a moment just to see as they are standing if they're about to begin any of the service, and then if not, we'll check in with Charlie outside the church. You hear the music continuing there as part of the clergy apparently walking there into the church, and this may have been standing for family to come into the church and take their seats at this point, but we're still waiting for it to officially begin.
And see some of the pictures over the course of his life. That's also some of what's playing inside the sanctuary right now as well. And again, we have Charlie Keegan outside of Pleasant Valley Baptist Church in Liberty. He's been there reporting this morning as everyone has been filing in. Can we go to Charlie, check in with him? Charlie, good morning.
Lindsay, yes, we are outside the church here where the sun's starting to poke out from behind the clouds, almost like Graham Hoffman smile, you know, coming down here on the folks. Everyone we've talked to this week has just talked about his kind of comedic timing and his attitude and optimism on life. So it's great to see a little sun come out here. Outside of the church, though, it is very quiet. Mostly everybody's gone inside at this point. Just a few stragglers. You could see that fire truck there parked outside of the church in the distance behind me. That's a fire truck that they've actually converted as a kind of hearse that will carry Graham Hoffman's casket away from the church here after the funeral and along the procession and ultimately to the funeral home where Hoffman will be cremated. We've seen a huge show of support from the fire service coming to this service today. Fire stations from St. Louis, from St. Joseph, and of course Sugar Creek, Lexington, Belton, where he first started his career in the fire department, all showing up here. One thing that's really kind of captures your attention as soon as you get into the parking lot here or exit off the highway is this American flag that's draped between two ladder trucks with KCFD parked right here in the parking lot out front of Pleasant Valley Baptist Church. So the procession after the funeral will pass underneath that flag and get firefighter Hoffman back down toward his fire station there on the south side of Kansas City to pass by it one more time before they bring him to the funeral home. We had a chance to speak with a battalion chief from KCFD who said that this is a heartwarming show of support. Back to you all.
I know Charlie had said there were 15 or so different departments helping out with this and bringing so many
come together
pieces
to
of
renew our
equipment.
trust.
Let's get into the funeral.
And that Jesus, who died on the cross and rose again, for he has freed us from death, and by rising has opened for us the gates of heaven. Let us pray today for our brother, Graham Jeffrey Hoffman, and that he may share in Christ's glory. And let us pray for ourselves that the Lord might grant us too in the gift of this loving consolation. On this solemn and humble day, the Kansas City Fire Department would like to thank the representatives from Governor Kehoe's office, the Missouri General Assembly, the Jackson County Legislature, specifically 1st District Legislature Manny Abarca, U.S. Congressman from the Missouri 5th District, the Reverend Emmanuel Cleaver, Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas, the Pleasant Valley Baptist Church for the use of this worship space, the Kansas City Police Department, and all area fire departments providing safety for our beloved Kansas City so that we, as a proud fire department, can gather in this place today to honor Graham. We also thank all coordinating agencies and organizations that are ensuring that we can honor Graham's life with respect, dignity, and love. I now ask you to rise as you are able, and let us offer a moment of silence as we begin this sacred time together. Thank you. You may be seated. Our first remembrance today will be offered by Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas.
I want to take a moment to have you all, and particularly Graham's family, look around at this room. Look around at the love that is all around you. No one is here for obligation. Everyone is here because of love, to pay tribute to the love that Graham gave to this city and he gave to all of us. Greater love hath no man than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. I see in this room the love that I mentioned. I also see and have seen in recent days the life and the legacy of Graham Hoffman. Graham, in many ways, is the best of Kansas City. An exceptional young man with this bright smile that we have all heard about, this energy, this eagerness to learn as a firefighter, to learn as a son, to learn as a man, to learn as a leader for others. starting his career in the fire service in Belton and finding his way to Station 42 in South Kansas City. Graham showed all at KCFD and indeed all in our community each day remarkable positivity and an eager dedication to helping any and all members of our community. I see also the impact that Graham left on his peers, his family in the Kansas City Fire Department. I see on your faces in front of me now, not just pain, but also memories. On Sunday, I had the opportunity to talk to a number of you who talked about interactions with him, engagement, how he volunteered, how he was eager to grow, to learn, to work. And the passion that he brings is something that I want to make sure we all commemorate today. A firefighter, when they see a paramedic, when they see a hero, that's what Graham was. That's what so many of you are. You inspire and protect our children, our loved ones, our homes, our places of worship, our communities, and indeed everything we hold dear. All of you here in front of me, my colleagues on City Council and so many others, all of you in the fire service and public safety more broadly, you're symbols of good, of courage, of every value one needs to hold in order to make the world a better place. Regardless of the moment, regardless of the politics, the issues, the challenges, where we are, you show up and you help. Your dedication to public service, the raw depth of the sacrifices you are asked to make on behalf of our community is humbling and serves to reinforce all of our commitment to repaying the debt as greatly as we can. Kansas City remains committed to ensuring that we seek justice as well on behalf of firefighter Hoffman, his parents, his family, his peers in our fire department. We remain committed to ensuring the safety of our first responders. And I know that our Kansas City Fire Department, led by our outstanding chief, will continue to do everything in its power to support firefighter Hoffman's wonderful mother, father, and family. You raised an exceptional person who embodied the best of our city, the best of what it meant to be a paramedic and firefighter, and sounded like a really cool guy as well. Based on everything I've heard about Graham from those who knew him best, it should not be a challenge to keep his memory alive. And indeed, we all will make sure that we continue to do that. There's a proverb that says, to save a life is to save a world. Graham saved countless worlds with his time in the Kansas City Fire Department. Graham took care of folks in times of need. He helped them be safe. He helped them lead exceptional lives. And we will honor his memory. And we will make sure that the world knows about Graham Hoffman, that future generations of firefighters know about Graham Hoffman, and that more than anything, for his birthday next Friday, that we give a tribute and that we say thank you, not just that next birthday, but so many ahead. So to Mom, Dad, family, and friends, we know that today is one difficult part of a journey. But know in the next journey, each day, we will be there with you. Know that for the next birthday and the birthday after and for birthdays years ahead, we will be there with you. Know that for holidays, for Christmas, for New Year's, for every day around, we will be there with you. Know that when we swear in new recruiting classes of firefighter cadets, new paramedics, new police officers, so many others, we will be there with you. We will tell the story of Graham. We will share the bravery and the courage that he had. And know that we will never forget and never stop thanking Graham and his family for his dedication of his life to this great city. I mentioned being a father, but I'll say one other thing to you. There are a lot of challenges sometimes each day in life. But one thing that is not a challenge is trusting that when we call for the Kansas City Fire Department, we get somebody like Graham who shows up. I'm honored. I am blessed to live in a city with men like him. It makes me feel safe every time I go out, every time I leave my wife, my children, when I think of my mother, my whole family here. I know that there are people like Graham who are there to protect them. I want to say thank you for that. I want to say God bless you today and for the many days ahead. God bless our city, God bless our country, and God bless Graham Hoffman. Thank you.
Our next speaker today is the Kansas City Fire Chief, Ross Grendison.
Thank you all for being here today as we gather to honor the memory and service of firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman, who made the ultimate sacrifice while serving the community he loved. To Graham's family, on behalf of the entire Kansas City Fire Department and the citizens of Kansas City, I extend our most sincere and heartfelt condolences. Your loss is deeply felt by all of us. I also would like to acknowledge the local and state representatives here whose presence underscores the importance of Graham's contribution to the community. To the International Association of Firefighters and its members, your attendance honors our fallen brother's sacrifice, and we are grateful for your support. To Kansas KCPD, our brothers and sisters, thank you for standing beside us as you always do in trying times like this. And to all the fire and EMS agencies that are here today, and to those offering coverage within our city, we offer you our most sincere thanks. Firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman started his career in the fire service working for Belton Fire Department. Graham was hired by KCFD in September of 2022 amidst one of the biggest staffing shortages in KCFD history. I remember getting a call from a Belton chief, and he was grumbling to me that I was taking one of his best young men. I was so glad to have Graham on our team. During his time at KCFD, Graham was assigned to Station 4 and Station 42. Graham was a hard worker and continually picked up extra shifts to provide the coverage our citizens deserved. Graham excelled as a firefighter and paramedic. His captains and coworkers often remarked how Graham had the ability to make the most difficult task look easy. He was a skilled paramedic that saved many lives while remaining calm in the face of chaos. He was kind, competent, and compassionate. And most importantly, he had empathy for the people he served. Known by his friends and coworkers as honest, loyal, and trustworthy. A natural leader that others wanted to be like and to follow. A current battalion chief and Graham's former captain said it best when he said, Graham possessed a unique quality that was hard to define, yet profoundly impactful. He exuded care and compassion, coupled with the confidence of a seasoned veteran. He embraced life fully, not recklessly, but with a deep appreciation for its beauty and value. By being open and vulnerable with his coworkers, friends, and family, he cultivated meaning relationships that fostered remarkable empathy, often seen in those much older than himself. His quiet confidence and composure under pressure was remarkable. He was on a journey to become an inspirational leader within the fire department, leading by example and inspiring those around him. These words are a testament to the man that Graham was. Yes, Graham was a natural when it came to being a firefighter and paramedic, but more importantly, Graham was a good human being. I was not surprised to learn that Graham was a registered organ donor, giving even in death. Midwest Transplant estimates that his donation will impact over 100 lives. Graham was an amazing son to Mike and Rhonda, a best friend and roommate to his brother Nolan, loving boyfriend to Mariah, and loved by many extended family and friends. I can only imagine the heartbreak of dreams unfulfilled. To Graham's parents, Mike and Rhonda, I know that exceptional young men like Graham are no accident. They are a product of you, the values you instilled, the example you set, and the love that you provided. You received the knock on the door that every firefighter family dreads. His sudden loss is incomprehensible and leaves a void that will never be filled. It is a reminder of the sacrifices made by those who serve and protect our communities. As we stand side by side in the face of danger, we also stand side by side in the face of grief. From the day Graham became a member of KCFD, you, his loved ones, became part of our fire department family. Today and in the days ahead, please remember that you will always be part of our KCFD family. Graham will forever be in our hearts. His legacy endures in the lives he impacted, the friendships he created, and the service he provided. As you navigate this loss, lean on us, your extended family. We are here for you, not just today, but always. We are one family now and forever. How do we honor Graham's legacy? We honor his legacy when the bells ring, when we roll out the door, every fire you put out, and every patient you tend to. When you provide excellent care, you honor his legacy. When we are caring, courageous, and compassionate, like Graham, we honor his legacy. Be like Graham. Graham, your bravery, dedication, and selflessness will never be forgotten. You have made the ultimate sacrifice. There is no more to do. You will be missed, and you will be remembered. Thank you for your service. Rest easy. We will take it from here.
Over the past couple days, I've had the fortune of spending time with the Hoffman family. They're close-knit. They care for each other. They support each other in this time of sorrow. And you can tell there's genuine love in the room for how much they care for each and individual member of the family. The next speaker I have to invite up is Noah Hoffman, Graham Hoffman's brother.
So this week is about Graham. The focus on him has been something that we can't even describe, and just the focus that our family has felt from all you guys out there has been something that, you know, I've tried to put into words, and it's something that I've had a problem with, and it's just, we just love you guys so much. We love everything that everyone's done for us. For a second, though, I want the full focus of the room to be on a couple names here. FAO Michael Young, Captain Anthony Jackson, Division Chief Paramedic Reggie McKeithen, and Paramedic Dustin Donovan. These four men are heroes. They gave our family a chance to touch Graham's warm body, feel his presence, get a chance for us to give closure and say goodbye to a person that we love so much. And it's just something that I don't know how to do anything but say thank you for. So if you guys are in the room, I hope you guys feel the focus of today, and just, there's nothing I can say but thank you. Nobody handles death well. Death is hard, but in these last few days, this has made me do some serious self-reflection. I think me and everyone that knows Graham, all of our friends, want to be better people because of him, and just what he has done, and who he is as a person has shown us all how to live and be better. When we were younger, me and Graham didn't live together. When I was in high school, we missed a couple years, and I know a few of my friends out there have had a conversation with me about how many times I wanted to tell him how much he meant to me, and I just thought now would be as good of a time as ever to speak those words. And Graham is my younger brother, and I've looked up to him for more than 10 years. He's someone that, he is a walking angel. He was always the person that will, I mean, people always say he'll give the shirt off his back. He is the person that would have done that. You never think you're going to have to bury your little brother. There's a million memories that I've thought of what I want to, have you guys remember with me. And I just always, the first things that come to mind is how much of a competitor he used to be. When we were younger, my dad he built these little mini golf holes. We had them underneath my mom's porch, and me and Graham would spend hours out there just trying to beat each other on these little mini golf holes. We had a wiffle ball field in the backyard. My dad made everything we wanted to do happen. We had lines mowed out. There was a home run line. Me and Robert and Braden and Kincaid used to keep track of home runs back there. And it was a competition every year. We loved it. Camping every year. He wanted to have a fire out back. We would just torment the neighbors, ding-dong ditch everybody. It was a great time. My dad's friend Edgar we used to play this dumb game in their garage. It was called plunger ball. We'd tape a square on the floor and flip a plunger and try to land it in this little square. And Graham was so good at it. He was just so good at everything he did. There was nobody better to hit a home run in softball than Graham Hoffman. He was the king dinger. He would let one rip. On the golf course, he'll take his shoes off and get barefoot, and he'll shoot an 82 like it was no problem. He was one of the best golfers around. We all loved that. And just moving forward, thinking about life and how things are going to continue without him has been something that I've really been trying to, think about just what the future is going to look like. And I think that's something that we're probably going to all struggle with for a long time. We're all going to miss Graham, but I just want to take these time to everybody make sure you look at your loved ones and just tell them that you care, because they're here today, gone tomorrow. You don't think it's going to happen to you until it does. And I want to thank every single one of you for coming in here today. I've been looking forward to this moment all week to just have a time to just speak to all of you guys. And just seeing all you guys look up here at me just makes me feel so good, and just having these fleeting moments of bliss are so good for me and my family. So I just want you guys to know how much it means to us. Everything you guys have all done has been wonderful. So we love you, and just thank you so much, okay?
God is our steadfast shepherd who walks beside us. He leads us safely home. Would you please pray with me Psalm 23, which assures us no comfort in no matter the darkness that we face. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not be in want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He revives my soul and guides me along right pathways for his name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. For you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table before me in the presence of those who trouble me. You have anointed my head with oil, and my cup is running over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The Gospel of John comforts us when the promise that we are not servants, not just servants, but beloved friends of Christ, chosen to live in his love. And there is no greater love than the kind that lays down its life for others. So here is a reading from the Gospel of John, chapter 15. As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I choose you. And I appoint you to go and bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commandments so that you may love one another. The Gospel of the Lord. So today we're gathered, both in this church and for those watching at home, in the thick of unimaginable pain. Pain that does not simply ache, but cries out from the marrow of our bones. We're gathered in sorrow, disbelief, and let's speak plainly, anger, rage, unbelievable rage. This is not how things should be. This is not how any of us imagined that we would remember Graham Hoffman in the life that he lived. There's a particular cruelty in the way that he was taken from us, suddenly, violently, serving someone that was supposed to be in need. There's a particular grief when someone who has pledged his life to protect and preserve life loses his own. It feels upside down and we want to scream. We want to question the justice in this. And if we're honest, some of us want to rage at God. Grief is not neat, it's not tidy, and neither is faith. And in our souls, we know that we need permission to name that. It is beauty and truth that gives us permission to name our pain. We do not leap over suffering to get to resurrection. We have to pass through the suffering. We gather at gravesides with open wounds and unanswered questions. But brothers and sisters, we're not doing it alone. Look at this room. We come to the foot of the cross, where violence and love collide, and we ask for a word, not a platitude, not a cliche, but a word. And in John's gospel, just as we heard, we receive that exact word. As Jesus says, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And in these verses, Jesus is speaking to his disciples on the eve of his crucifixion. They are confused and anxious. They're afraid of losing their leader. The room is thick with dread. And into that dread, our God speaks love. But this love is not sentimental. This love is not a Hallmark card. This love that serves is a love that grieves, a love that bleeds, and a love that faces death and keeps going, as our first responders do every day of their life. Graham Hoffman exemplified that love. He lived that in his actions. His girlfriend Mariah stated to me this week that Graham would want us all to continue to be happy and positive, to move forward and not hold anger towards the suspect. She said, "You can be mad, but you'll have to let that go. Graham would want you to turn this negative into a positive." But how do we get there? How do we overcome the anger and rage that feels so just? Well, we need more than empty platitudes. We need a deep reckoning with our grief, our justice, and what it takes to forgive. You see, Mariah here reminds us of something truly Christ-like. Her words echo Jesus on the cross. "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And yet, for those left behind, especially when death comes violently, this kind of forgiveness can feel impossible. And I have to say to you, anger is not a sin. Jesus himself was angry. He flipped tables in the temple. The Psalms that we pray are full of rage. They cry for justice and vengeance. Scripture never demands that we deny our emotions. Graham didn't just wear the uniform, he wore the calling. Whether it was running into burning buildings, tending to the injured, helping dying people, or cracking jokes around the firehouse dinner table, Graham lived his life with others at the center. And that's the thing about firefighters. They don't run away from danger, they run toward it. Jesus says, "You are my friends if you do what I command you." And what does Jesus command? His first and greatest commandment is to love one another as he has loved us. This is not a love that waits until we feel safe. This is a love that goes where it is needed, a love that serves without asking, "What's in it for me?" That is the love that Graham practiced, and that is the love of Christ. But if you're like me, there's still a burning question right in your heart. Why wasn't that enough to protect him? If Graham lived the way Jesus told us to live, if he laid down his life in service to others, why wasn't he shielded from this violent ending? We cannot pretend to answer that fully, but Scripture doesn't ask us to pretend. Instead, it invites us to go deeper. Jesus goes on to say, "I do not call you servants any longer, I have called you friends." What's that mean, to be a friend to Jesus? Well, it means that we are not immune to suffering. It also means that we're never alone in it. It means we must embrace the mystery of joy and sorrow balanced together, two feelings at the same time. In the midst of life, we are in death, and in the midst of death, we are in life. Graham didn't die alone. He was held in the tender arms of his Kansas City firefighter siblings and the care of the physicians and nurses at North Kansas City Hospital, in the loving hearts of his family, through prayers in this community, and most of all by the redemption of Christ himself, who suffered through death and broken its grip for us. Because here is a message at the heart of our hope. Jesus does not simply commend love, he embodies it. He goes to the cross for us. He absorbs the very worst of human violence, and on the third day he rises. He does not return with vengeance, but with peace. He shows us that the worst thing is never the last thing. And that is the hope that we dare to hold on this day. In the resurrection of Jesus, we are given a promise, not just for eternity, but for right now. A promise that is stronger than we can hate. The sacrifice is not wasted. Every act of courage and compassion echoes throughout eternity. Graham's life wasn't perfect, but whose is? No life is perfect. But it was faithful, It was generous, and he was marked by that gritty and gutsy kind of love that Jesus calls divine. And I believe on this day with all my heart that Christ has received Graham as a friend and has welcomed him home and told him, "Well done, good and faithful servant." So what now? What do we do with this hollow space that Graham leaves behind for us? Well, we love. As you can see in this room, we're filled with love. We love like he did. We show up, we bind our wounds, and we support one another. We remember that we are not given to each other to consume or compete, but to serve and protect, to build one another up. This is not the end of Graham's story, not in God's economy. There's a famous quote from the poet John Donne on what another's death does to us. He says, any man's death diminishes me because I am involved in mankind. Here the poet Donne expresses the interconnectedness of humanity. Struggling with each individual's death has a ripple effect on everyone else. But I would like to add that any man's love also deepens us, drawing us more fully into the mystery of the divine that holds all things together in the fabric of our lives. Graham's death does diminish us today. Let's not hide from that. Let's not hide from the anger. Let's not fast forward through the grief. But Graham's love, his life of service, it deepens us too. It calls us toward the courage. The memory of Graham pulls us towards hope, and his memory shows us how we can hold our community together. Friends, let's not miss this subtle turn that Jesus makes in John's gospel reading. You did not choose me, Jesus says, but I choose you, and I appointed you to go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. That is resurrection hope. That is kingdom hope. That, even in death, endures. And the seeds that Graham planted in our hearts through his virtuous and loving demeanor, in the lives that he touched, the service that he gave, the love that he bore, it will continue to grow. We may not see it yet, but God's promise is there. As we commend Graham to the care of God, let us abide in that love. Let us abide in it when the nights are long and the questions are loud. Let us abide in it when our grief overflows at the sound, the scent, and a memory. Let us abide in it when we are called to rise up again and serve as he served. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Today we weep, but not as those without hope. Today we hurt, but not as those with community. And today we grieve, but not as those without God. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So now let us join our hearts in prayer, entrusting our grief and our hope to the God who is near to the brokenhearted and faithful in every season. I invite Battalion Chief Ron Goodwin to step forward.
Let us pray for Graham, our brother, who has died in the service of others, and for all who mourn his passing. With full hearts and trembling hope, we lift our voices to God, saying, Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For Graham, who answered the call to protect life and property, who gave his life in the line of duty, receive him into the arms of your mercy, O Lord, and crown his service with your eternal peace. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For his fellow firefighters and first responders, whose grief is heavy and whose calling is sacred, strengthen them in courage, bind them in brotherhood, and guard them in every peril. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For his family, friends, and loved ones, those who knew his laughter, shared his burdens, and now bear his loss, surround them with your love. Give them the comfort of your presence and grant them the gift of hope. Lord, in your mercy. For our city and our nation, grateful for those who risk all for the common good. Inspire us to build a society that honors sacrifice, upholds justice, and seeks peace. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For all who serve in dangerous places, firefighters, paramedics, police officers, and members of the armed forces, protect them, guide them, and return them safely to those they love. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. For those who struggle with trauma, loss, or survivor's guilt, bring healing to their minds, strength to their spirits, and companions to walk beside them. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer. We commend to your eternal care all who have died in service to others, and especially today, Graham. May his memory be a blessing, his life a legacy of courage and love. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer.
God of fire and water, we encourage and compassion, receive the soul of your servant Graham and comfort those who mourn. Forgive the sins of those asleep in Christ and grant them a place in your kingdom. Give us grace to honor his life with our own, to protect what he has cherished, and to serve as he served through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. And the God, through his Son, Jesus Christ, taught his disciples, we continue down through generations and pray, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Give rest, O Christ, to your servant with your saints, where sorrow and pain is no more. The fullness of life never ends. You alone are eternal, the creator and source of all life. We are mortal, shaped from the earth, and to earth we shall return. This was your decree from the beginning. You are dust, and to dust you shall return. And even at the grave we raise our song, Alleluia, Alleluia, Alleluia. In your loving hands, O merciful Savior, we now commend your servant Graham. Welcome him as one of your own, a sheep of your pasture, a child of your grace, a soul redeemed by your love. Receive him into the arms of your mercy, into the peace that passes all understanding, and into the radiant company of the saints in light. Amen. The peace of God, which passes all understanding, keep your hearts and minds in the knowledge and love of God and of his Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be among you and remain with you always. Amen. At this time, the International Association of Firefighters will have a medal presentation to Graham's family.
will now perform the bell ceremony. The bell ceremony is reserved for firefighters that have made the ultimate sacrifice. In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was the bell that signaled the beginning of that day's shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which summoned these brave souls to fight fires and place their lives in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizen. And when the fire was out and the alarm had come to an end, it was the bell that signaled to all the completion of that call. When a firefighter had died in the line of duty, paying the supreme sacrifice, it was the mournful toll of the bell that solemnly announced a comrade's passing. We utilize these traditions as symbols which reflect honor and respect on those who have given so much and who have served so well. To symbolize the devotion that these brave souls had for their duty, a special signal of 3 rings, 3 times each, represents the end of our comrades' duties, that they will be returning to quarters. And so, to those who have selflessly given their lives for the good of their fellow man, their task completed, their duties well done, to our comrades, their last alarm, they are going home.
Firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman. Firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman. The last alarm for firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman has now ended. He has gone home.
Our service is now concluded. Let us go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Service now concluded there for firefighter and paramedic Graham Hoffman. We will continue to keep you inside the church there as people begin to file out. Of course, the procession will follow soon after, but really beautiful remembrances we got to listen to.
And so many beautiful traditions for the fire service when they mourn a line of duty death of one of their members. You saw the last call, which is just always so devastating to hear.
I did not realize until this service just then that his birthday was coming up next week. That we heard the mayor mention that. We've said all throughout the week that he was a young 29 years old, and that struck anyone realizing how young he was. But the fact that he's so close to his birthday as well was an extra part of this tragedy.
Had served 6 years, 3 years with KCFD, and at the same time you heard about his age. You heard about how he had the confidence of a seasoned veteran.
Yeah.
And served so willfully, and it was picking up extra shifts, and his other department was so sad to see him go when he came to KCFD. There's so many testaments to the kind of person he was and who served his community so well.
Once again, we thank you for taking part in our coverage this afternoon. If you're just joining us, we do have some moments we'd like to replay for you over the last hour, some of the things we heard from the podium there. I believe we'll begin with a couple of thoughts from his brother who came and spoke at the podium during that service.
He is a walking angel. He was always the person that will, people always say he'll give the shirt off his back. He is the person that would have done that. You never think you're going to have to bury your little brother. I just want to take these time to just everybody, just make sure you look at your loved ones and just tell them that you care, because they're here today, gone tomorrow. You don't think it's going to happen to you until it does. And I want to just thank every single one of you for coming in here today. I've been looking forward to this moment all week to just have a time to just speak to all of you guys. And just seeing all you guys look up here at me just makes me feel so good. And just having these fleeting moments of bliss are so good for me and my family. So I just want you guys to know how much it means to us. Everything you guys have all done has been wonderful. So we love you, and just thank you so much, okay?
His older brother, Noah, who said he looked up to Graham, his younger brother, for the better part of a decade. You're seeing outside Pleasant Valley Baptist Church now, they're getting ready for the procession that's supposed to begin within the hour.
You and I have talked about during the course of this week preparing for this funeral how unfortunately we've done this more than once for firefighters, for police officers, for first responders here in town. And it strikes me in these moments where we just heard from Noah there, this is in many cases our one opportunity to see the people that we talk about. We so often are looking at them as badges, as sirens, as red and blue flashing lights, and not the men and women who get up and do these jobs every day. And as unbelievably tragic as it is, these are our moments that we get to savor who they were as people, when the people who knew them and loved them long before they ever put on a badge or a uniform get up and talk about who they were and tell the community, thank you for remembering my brother, my sister, my loved one. This is who they were, and this is who we hope you'll remember them as. And those are the special moments of these ceremonies that we get to bring you here.
Families who have shared their loved ones with us, who put their lives on the line to protect us and to serve us as a community. I was thinking about the fire station number 42, which is in South Kansas City, where this procession will drive by, where he served, where you were earlier this week. And how many times have you driven by the fire station in your neighborhood, around the corner? And how many times have you stopped to think about the men and women that are in there serving and you know, sleeping there overnight, because they never know when you are going to need them?
I want to bring in, if we can, I mentioned earlier we've got a special guest with us this afternoon. This is Dr. Richard Gist, who's a retired Deputy Director for Health and Safety from KCFD, retired just a few months ago, and he joins us with us now, has been sitting here all through that memorial taking part. You told us before we started earlier this afternoon that you've been to many of these in your time with KCFD. What struck you as you watched this afternoon?
This one in particular, the statements were quite moving.
Yeah.
You know, to hear from his brother and to hear from, you know, the respect that he had for him was very moving to me. Basically, when you learn about somebody at this point in their life, what you're really learning about is the potential you didn't know, you didn't understand, is going to be lost to you. But if you look around the room, you also see the people who take that. And they will take it to the street tomorrow.
When they go back to work.
Yes. And whatever it is that you need from them in the course of your life, Graham Hoffman will be a part of it.
I heard his brother say, taught us how to live better.
Yes.
We take that. We had mentioned KCFD is a large department, hundreds of members, and you were with the department for a long, long time, and you had heard of Graham Hoffman.
As I mentioned to you before, when you're in the executive staff and somebody's very new on the department, if you hear their name, it's either a really good thing or a really bad thing. And in Graham's case, I'd heard his name, and it was always positive. It was something he did that was out of the ordinary. Somebody that a deputy could count on to pick up a shift when he was having a horrible time filling it. Somebody that instead of a complaint from a patient, you got a compliment from a family about the care that he gave.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy. But bear in mind, you have 1,400 of them in Kansas City who are like that.
We got a little bit of insight as we continue to look inside as people are falling out of the church there. We got a little bit of insight into who he was when Chief Ross Grundison came up and talked for a moment, because he described the moment. We've told you all throughout the week that Graham worked for Belton before he came to KCFD, and Chief Grundison described the moment that they hired Graham to come from Belton to KCFD. Listen to this.
I remember getting a call from a Belton chief, and he was grumbling to me that I was taking one of his best young men. I was so glad to have Graham on our team. During his time at KCFD, Graham was assigned to Station 4 and Station 42. Graham was a hard worker and continually picked up extra shifts to provide the coverage our citizens deserved. Graham excelled as a firefighter and paramedic. His captains and coworkers often remarked how Graham had the ability to make the most difficult task look easy.
Part of the reason you're hearing good things about this young man, he just joined KCFD in September of 2022, had not been there long. I'm sure that that's a kind of phone call that someone in the chief's shoes would like to get from the guy that they used to work for when they come to work for him.
The chief in Belton, I'm sure, was not happy about making it, but on the other hand, was certainly happy to receive it. At the point that the Chief Grundison spoke of there, we had not been able to hire for a bit. We were just trying to revise the testing
He described
process.
that. He said what a tough time it was for the fire department.
I think we hired somewhere close to maybe 112, firefighters at that time. So there were a lot of new people in there, and to percolate up so that your instructors notice you in the academy, your captains, speak highly of you in the field. That's breaking out of the masses really quick, and it takes a special person to stand out like that in a group where, frankly, everybody is exceptional and the critics are harsh.
I'm curious about the ripple effect that people are able to have when they go from station to station, so to speak, or work at other departments, not other departments, but you and I we're here all the time. We don't go work at any other TV stations for a little while and come back. Right. We've talked about the fact that when he died, he was not at his normal spot. He was filling in someplace else. I'm sure that people are able to let their impact be felt when they do what he just did and go to other places.
Yes, the system that Kansas City runs for emergency medical care is different in several respects, but one of them in particular is that we staff far more ambulances than many comparable cities do, because all of your ambulance service, essentially, in Kansas City comes from the fire department. That also means on any given day, we're scrambling to fill those slots with the paramedics that are required to make that ambulance work. So it is a regular thing. The first thing to wake you up in the morning is the page that goes out looking for people.
Yeah, we need somebody.
to fill spots. By all reports, Graham Hoffman was one of the people you could count on to fill one.
Yeah.
And that tells you a lot. I mean, essentially, I remember telling a graduating class one time that really there wasn't a lot that we asked of them on the job, but number one was to show up. And by not just report for work, but be mindfully present to every person you meet. It may be the third time you've dealt with this today, but it's probably the first time that person has ever dealt with it. Second one was be nice, what's it cost you? Right. Basically, we're the good guys. We're the people who come in to remind you that on the worst day of your life, you were lucky enough to live in the best city on earth.
Somebody's here to care for you.
And we have the best people we can possibly find coming, and their sole focus at that moment is you. So the people who can carry that off and set the example for it, lead in ways that are far more important than rank. They show us what's important. The third thing is always stay safe. This is a job where people get hurt. If I did not come in through firefighting, I'm a public health doc. I'm kind of weird in that respect. But for those who have been in this all their career and have done this work, if you're an EMT or a medic, you'll leave when your back gives out. You'll have lumbar spine problems.
Right.
If you were a firefighter, you'll probably have a shoulder or a knee replaced. It just comes with the territory.
Yes.
So it's very important to always be looking out for yourself. Hoffman was one of that generation who comes in knowing that they're in it for the long haul. We once made a comment, a chief in Phoenix and I, we were discussing things about firefighters are different than most jobs. It's most jobs, you're a rented car. You ever wash a rental car? You ever check the? No, we buy the car and we keep it as long as it'll drive.
Yeah.
Most of our people will leave between 25 and 32 years after a full career, and they'll carry scars and baggage, and they'll also carry rewards that are impossible to describe to anybody who hasn't been there.
Still bringing you images from inside the church there as people file out, and some images from outside the church as people gather, getting ready for that procession. Thankfully, the rain looks like it may be holding off this afternoon.
And we do have crews along the route. We do want to bring you some more moments from the ceremony, the celebration of life, the family called it. We heard from Mayor Quentin Lucas, Kansas City Mayor, speaking at this as well.
Graham showed all at KCFD, and indeed all in our community each day, remarkable positivity and an eager dedication to helping any and all members of our community. And we will make sure that the world knows about Graham Hoffman, that future generations of firefighters know about Graham Hoffman, and that more than anything, for his birthday next Friday, that we give a tribute and that we say thank you, not just that next birthday, but so many ahead.
What he went on to say there, I think, is so important because unfortunately we've had services like these for law enforcement members and first responders who have passed away, but the family and his firefighter family and paramedic family long mourn him beyond this week.
Oh, yes.
What is it like for the department, for his family, for his friends in the months and the years to come, and what can the public do to not forget his
Especially
legacy?
there at 42, his house. Yes. Are there things that people can continue to do?
Many times there will be something that's a tribute in the station to someone, who served there and also stays in that station as a part of its culture moving forward. But going even beyond that, one of the most important things that happens with this is that statement about "we will be with you." That is not gratuitous. That's not perfunctory. I know, for example, night before my 50th birthday, I lost my closest friend on the job in a fire. And people still showed up and mowed his family's lawn for 20 years.
For 20 years.
Wow.
Just to make sure they were taken care of.
Yeah.
Again, you've learned that Graham was an exceptional people. I remind you that KCFD has 1,375 of those exceptional people. And they're exceptional to one another as well. They're exceptional in a tight group that very few who have not been in it really know what binds it together. If you look at this, I'd mentioned to you off camera when they went into Amazing Grace there that this is the point where you'll see most of us who have been through these, our lips start to quiver.
Yes, sir.
Because that means we're coming to the end of this and we transition from the ceremonial process of grieving to the difficult part of dealing with a loss that goes on forever. There have been over 100 Kansas City firefighters, well over 100, who have died in the line of duty. 120, I think, is the current count with Hoffman added. And there have been almost 24 of them just in the time I've been associated with the department. So it's a difficult job, and these losses are not infrequent. But again, as I've told graduating classes and their families, your courageous act is tonight when you pin on this badge.
Yeah.
Everything else after that's your job. But the courage is saying, I will trade my life for yours.
Yeah. What have you heard from people in these positions? I'm curious, obviously, we could talk for days about the people who knew Graham the best, the people that were there in Station 42, the people that are going to think about him and his face and jokes that he told and laughs that they had together for a long, long time. But the men and women in fire departments who never met him. Obviously, you mentioned 1,400 people. There's got to be lots of people in the department that never met him. The impact whenever someone is lost the next time they have to go back to work and the next week's worth of shifts that they have to do, that has to be something where they go, okay, we just lost somebody. Keep that in mind.
Well, bear in mind that that's been going on all week. Throughout the week, from the time that he left North Kansas City Hospital to the time that his burial is completed today, there will always have been 1 to 2 firefighters sitting watch. We call it soft watch. And they will stay with him.
Physically nearby.
Physically with him as long as that goes on. There are department liaisons who will make sure the family's needs are met and continue to stay connected to them. That's a difficult job because you remain a part of that grief. It's again, it's a difficult ordeal for anybody, but this is a large family where not only does it happen often, but it happens when it's unexpected. It happens to people you didn't expect it to happen to. As in this case, it happens in ways that you never expected it to happen. But the thing that you know every day is that today might be yours. And it makes you a different person to know that. For one thing, if you learn to integrate it well, you don't waste a lot of time on anger, especially toward people you love. You learn that whatever you're going to say to them may be the last thing they ever hear from you. Don't waste it.
Oh, a message
Make
we
it
heard
worthwhile.
from his brother.
Yeah. Noah Hoffman talked about that there were times that he wanted to talk to his brother and things that he wanted to say to his brother and he never did. And he said there on the stage, don't let time pass. If there's something you want to say to someone you love, say it now.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier about there are a lot of traditions that happen, especially at the end of the ceremony and what we're getting ready to see. Can you kind of walk us through what part of that is? Like, what are we seeing right now?
Okay, the bell ceremony that you saw, it comes as was discussed there, as Battalion Chief Shield was discussing, out of the old telegraph system. Rumor has it, by the way, that the first use of it was to announce the death of Abraham Lincoln in the New York, this was done in the New York Fire Department way back when. That's certainly part of the folklore. I can't verify it, but I've researched it down, but it's a great story. And yet it's done every time, everywhere, because again, it holds us all together. There are 31 to 33,000 fire departments in the United States. We're uniquely local in that respect. And 85% of them are small volunteer fire departments where, you know, folks are...
They don't have 1,400 members.
No, and they're cobbling, you know, they're holding bake sales to buy hose kind of thing.
Yeah.
But all of them are bound together by this calling and this tradition. So this is one of the reasons you see so many people from all over show up for one of these. The loss of any firefighter anywhere is a loss to every firefighter everywhere.
I'm curious too, I'm sure that it occurs to some of the people watching right now. I wonder why they put these on television. I wonder why these, I mean, obviously the family can say, no thank you, we don't want to have that kind of thing, but Do you find that whenever there are these big events like this where the community is brought in and said, take part in this with us, that aids in closure? What have you seen in the time where maybe differences between, yes, we would like to have a big public memorial like this versus no, we'd like something a little bit smaller?
Most families welcome the recognition of the loved one they lost.
Yeah.
It's also very critical for the department to be able to make that expression. Having this on television allows not only more people to participate in it, but it allows the community to think for a moment about the risk of, as you mentioned earlier, people that you take for granted. You see them in the grocery store, you don't think a lot about them. They're, just the guys and gals in the blue shirts. But what is critical at times like this is that the community takes that moment to say, we see you. We know what you do. Thank you. So in my talk with Lily earlier this week, that's one thing I'd asked her to please emphasize. So when you see these men and women, and you will run into them in places like the grocery store, you'll see them in their fire department t-shirts places, do what you would do for any service member. Just say thank you for your service.
Yeah. You said in that story, and we'll potentially run that full interview that you had with Lily O'Shea Becker earlier this week during some of the procession, because we still have a couple of hours worth of coverage to bring you during the procession. But I remember you saying there's really no way to gauge what that means to someone whenever they are told thank you for your service in these grocery store situations you're describing.
Right. It means I see you, I know what you do, and I appreciate it. Kansas City Fire Department, if you look at the annual citizen survey of satisfaction, we've always held the distinction of being about the only department that everybody likes.
Yeah.
And people think of, well, and the reason is whatever's going on in your life, and it may be a major medical emergency, it may be there's a raccoon in your basement and you don't know how to get it out.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, if you call 911 and it doesn't involve a gun and a robbery, you're going to get a firefighter, and that person is going to try to figure out how to make your life better at that moment. It probably won't be on our mission, it won't be on the trucks we have and the tools we have in the truck. We're going to try to figure out how to take care of this for you. This is a time to recognize how much comfort and how much security, as Mayor Lucas suggested, you have in your life, just knowing they are there. And knowing that, as I said before, in an emergency, these people will trade their life for yours. But when that happens, it's a big loss.
It strikes me the difference between, because obviously you and I working when we work, we have lots of this fire happened overnight, that kind of thing, and we get video of this big dramatic warehouse fire where there's multiple crews there on scene, that kind of thing, which is something that's going to be talked about, period. The number of things that will not be talked about that are done all hours of the night by these men and women in the fire department, if not to speak too much of the specifics of what happened here with Graham Hoffman, but if that had not ended in his death, that's not something we ever would have talked about.
You would never have known
someone walking on the side of the road that needed help, and an ambulance was called. And that happens all throughout the night for so many people, these quote unquote minor things to the people that don't impact, but major things to the people that are impacted.
KCFD answers about 135,000 calls a year.
Wow.
Stop and think about that for a minute. That's essentially the equivalent of seeing every man, woman, and child in Kansas City once in every 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
I've always emphasized to firefighters that the impact of what you do ripples hugely because of that, in that those people are going to hear about what you've done, or friends are going to tell them. So figure everything you do, 5 people are going to be touched by what you did. So if you think about it in those terms, we pretty much are going to touch your life this year one way or another. And the majority of people won't give it a second thought. We'll come, we'll do what we do, we'll be gone. But every one of those calls could have ended this way.
And we think about, you were talking about how difficult it can be to make sure every part is covered. Other departments stepping in so the fire department can continue to function, but also mourn the person they lost. Can we take that video or the shot again of the two pumper trucks with the flag that you can see.
Those are actually aerial ladder trucks.
Ladder trucks, yeah.
Thank you. They're KCFD ladder trucks.
Yes, they are.
And they can be a part of this because there are 15 other departments that brought their own equipment
Yes.
that could be used in emergencies in Kansas City right now, right?
And right now, if you're, for example, in one of the areas where firefighters on duty are at the funeral, your fire truck may come from Grandview, it may come from Belton, it may come from Independence or Raytown or Overland Park.
Who have their own emergencies to cover.
Yes, and many of those people are volunteering for their department on overtime.
Yes.
To cover here. And as a result, they will give you the same care and concern as if they were one of ours or as if you lived in their community. And that's the thing that really defines who these people are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're service people. I never intended to be in a fire department. It surprised me. But the nature of the research I did brought me there. But one of the first things I learned about this was it connected with my own family's 375-year service commitment.
Yeah.
You know, we've been officers,
Military,
primarily military, since 1651. Both my sons are now. But one of the things that attracted me to it was the way that my sons, very young, responded to, you know, Daddy's with the fire department. That was a sense of
It's the
great
same kind of thing Mayor
pride.
Lucas talked about. Mayor Lucas talked about the same kind of thing with his children. They respond to fire department now.
Daddy's an administrator in a college isn't quite exciting. but you know, it's a connection to that service and the commitment that's made to take care of one another. As I said, the thing I told them over and over again in all those years was that you come into somebody's life on the worst day of their life and you remind them that they were lucky enough to be in Kansas City. And we take care of them. I will note, by the way, as you were talking about things, you know, in that overnight fire, the stuff you'll never hear. In Kansas City, since the early 90s, we've had a system where nobody sleeps in the car, nobody's on the street after a fire. These people will have Red Cross volunteers on site within 45 minutes of the time that we notify them. They will make sure they have a place to stay. They will give them casework the following day to help them through the situation. We have a variety of services with our community paramedics.
It's not just
where
putting
we'll
out
take
fires.
care of you. No, we exist to facilitate your life in this city. That's our main mission, is to make sure that whatever happens to you, Kansas City has your back.
We're watching still live coverage outside the church now as we get ready. We're still about half an hour away from the procession getting ready to begin, and we've detailed exactly where that's going to go. We'll continue live coverage during the procession. If you're just joining us and missed some of the moments during the memorial service and funeral during that 2 o'clock or that 1 o'clock hour, one that we wanted to share with you was from Graham Hoffman's brother, talking about the details of how the family was able to say goodbye to him. We detailed the fact that this happened early in the morning, just after midnight on Sunday morning, and Graham Hoffman did not die until later in the day. His brother talked about what it meant to the family to be able to get to him in those hours and say goodbye.
When we were younger, me and Graham didn't live together. When I was in high school, we missed a couple years, and I know a few of my friends out there have had a conversation with me about how many times I wanted to tell him how much he meant to me, and I just thought now would be as good of a time as ever to speak those words. And Graham is my younger brother, and I've looked up to him for more than 10 years. He's someone he is a walking angel. He was always the person that will, people always say he'll give the shirt off his back. He is the person that would have done that.
I believe we have one more soundbite from him that we want to share with you about those moments of being able to get to their brother, because he thanked people specifically on the work they were able to do to basically keep him alive long enough for his family to say goodbye. I believe we have that from earlier.
For a second, though, I want the full focus of the room to be on a couple names here. FAO Michael Young, Captain Anthony Jackson, Division Chief Paramedic Reggie McKeithen, and Paramedic Dustin Donovan. These four men are heroes. They gave our family a chance to touch Graham's warm body, feel his presence, get a chance for us to give closure and say goodbye to a person that we love so much.
He talked a little bit also about the outpouring this week from the entire community. Their firefighter-owned T-shirt company has, I just got an update on their social, raised $320,000
on $15 T-shirts.
On $15 T-shirts sold not only here, around the world.
Yeah, they said Europe. They sent some to Europe. The Kansas City Royals bought 75 for their clubhouse, that kind of thing. That's a number 42 you're going to see around town quite a bit, I think, in the days and weeks to follow, remembering him. What is the pride aspect? Because these are men and women who are not there to get any kind of recognition. We've seen that time and time and time again. Thankfully, not just in tragic stories like these, in happy stories where something unbelievably heroic was done. You and I have interviewed these firefighters before. It can be like pulling teeth to get them to talk about themselves and talk about a good moment for them.
That's not why they do it.
As tragic as this is, this will be a moment of pride for this department to be able to celebrate one of their own, I would think.
Pride is probably not a word I would hang on it per se. It's a sense of honor. It is an honor to serve. It is an honor to serve with those who are willing to give their lives. It's an honor to take care of a community. The people who do this, when I'd said earlier about say thank you for your service, the answer you'll get is just doing my job.
Yes, yes.
Right.
But that is their job.
I've heard that more than one time.
Yeah, that is their job, is to serve you, to take care of you, to make sure that your life is safe and that nothing that man and nature throw at you will leave you alone without your community protecting you. It's said, ask an academic these things, and I'm a public health guy, but an academic by background, and you'll get more detail than you want. But basically, any community, if you go back even to Tocqueville, describing the American experience, there are two things that are critical to it: social regulation, social facilitation. Social regulation is police and courts and things like that. Social facilitation, that's the function of your community, making it possible for you to live here and to live a decent life.
Yeah.
Well, we're the #1 agency you have for social facilitation. Like I said, 135,000 calls. We're in 135,000 homes in a year. And
well, what struck me is what you said about if it's not a crime related, you're going to get a firefighter. When you
Absolutely.
call 911 and it's not a crime that has happened, it's going to be a firefighter that's going to respond to you.
And talk about the range of the role of firefighter paramedic. That may be something that people might not quite understand, the breadth of what they do.
Well, the people like Graham who really embrace both of them, are especially valuable. As what they share in common as all the various roles that we do, and we have a number, ranging from prevention, which is, one you don't hear about a lot, but it's one of the biggest things we're after. The best day we have is the day where we don't go to work, because that's the only time you're having a good day.
Yeah.
People don't call 911 to invite you to come over and share the barbecue and have a beer. There's something bad going on there.
Yes.
But when people are standing up to do that thing, that becomes their entire focus, and they want the focus to be on the job and the team, not on themselves as individuals. So what you see coming together here is that sense of teamwork and mutual support. As we look at what's going on here, as begin to remove him from the church and put him on the caisson on the back of his pumper, you'll see that there will generally be 2 lines of uniformed firefighters on either side of the route who will be stand at attention and salute as he comes by. But all of these traditions are expressions of that connectedness, and that everybody is a part of a mission and a job. There is really no I in this. You will never, ambulances, there's always at least 2, often 3. There's never fewer than 4 on a fire truck. It just takes that many.
When we see these members of the department standing, is it typically someone from their fire station? Is it different? What kinds of
I can't tell from just looking there exactly where they are at the moment.
You see them lifting the casket there into the back of the truck onto the caisson.
Okay. Yeah, they will be, anybody in uniform who is there will participate in that honor guard.
Let's pause for just a minute and see if there's anything that we can listen to here as they load that body there.
Much of what you see going on there is the casket must be tied down and secured.
Okay.
And then the tailpiece is put in place to provide an extra level of security as the vehicle is in motion.
And I can see 42 on that tailpiece. That's
yes,
signifying
it'd be painted for each time, yes.
And our camera zoomed in from a considerable distance. You could probably faintly hear the bagpipes that you can see playing while they're doing this.
You can see people saluting there on the left. Traditionally, will his family ride in a car immediately behind? Where will his family be during this procession?
They will be either preceding or behind.
Okay. You were telling us, and we'll talk more about this when during the actual procession, but this is going to be a lengthy drive that they take, and you were telling us about some of the thought processes that go into how exactly they're going to do it and where they're going to go.
A great deal of planning goes into the logistics of a procession. In this case, it's even more complicated in that he's going from the very north of the city all the way to the very south of the city and back.
Yeah.
So that means that exits are going to have to be closed on 71 and on 435. Intersections will have to be blocked. There will be a whole contingent from the police department of motorcycle officers who will travel with the procession, doing those things off to the side in advance of when they get there. And all of that has to be planned out and timed, and the communication must be consistent all the way through it. The point being to make sure, A, that the procession continues safely and unfettered, and B, to make sure that people will have time to consider other alternatives. You know, that we're going to be blocking places. You want to make sure that you can direct them where they can continue on their journey. So again, there have been people from the fire department, the police department, and others planning on that, I would suspect, since Monday. Just to make sure all of that is arranged. It's a very, very large thing to put together.
You know, it's a 27-mile journey or so from Pleasant Valley Baptist Church in Liberty down to Station 42 in South Kansas City. And you said a procession driving by the station where they served is traditionally part of this. It seems obvious, of course, but talk about the significance of one final drive past the station where they served.
It's an opportunity for him to symbolically say goodbye to his second home, and for the people who lived with him there to salute him one last time as he goes to his rest.
We'll talk more about this whenever we have video of him getting close to that location at Station 42, but I wanted to ask you too about, because this was part of your purview when you were with the department, the care that will be given to the men and women that were at that station that knew him best in the days and weeks to come, whether it be counseling services, therapy services, the people who were out with him on a daily and nightly basis.
One of the great successes of this generation in the industry is what we've been able to build to help people take care of themselves.
Yeah.
In this particular case, Kansas City firefighters are fortunate to have a very robust system of support always available to them. They have an ongoing counseling service which is operated in conjunction with Local 42 and their contracting employee assistance provider. So it's nested right in the union where they're accustomed to getting their help and assistance. And also IAFF International put a lot of very, very excellent work into building a peer support program which has been in place here for several years, through their locals. And there will be people, in most cases, coming in from other parts of the country to help and assist with this process of transition and supporting that whole operation. So people have lots of opportunity to get support, but the support that really matters the most will be happening at those kitchen tables.
Yeah.
It's the one-on-one, it's the arm on the shoulder, it's the just, giving somebody a moment to do whatever they have to do. But it's the genuine compassion of a family centering around an emergency that really makes the most difference.
Well, and quite frankly, to me, I think about the kitchen table inside Station 42, which we're looking at live right there. That's his home station. There's a kitchen in there. There's a table in there. And I have been in fire stations enough. You and I are there during Christmas time every year during the Toys for Tots situation.
We call it second home
for
a reason.
They will tell us, I've been in fire stations when they're like, hey, we're about to cook dinner. Do you want to sit down with us? Yeah. And it's a family situation. And I think about the first time, and the first time obviously has happened since he died. They've been together this week, but the continuing conversations they're going to have and how often, hey, remember that time Graham did this, is going to come up at that table inside Station 42.
Well, if you think about your own family, the odds are that the dining table in your home was the place where everybody got together and caught up and stayed connected, no matter what you all ran off and did during the course of the day.
Yeah, where you argued with one another, where you told each other what was going on, all those things.
Everything comes together there. It's also the seat of practical learning. We have a procedure, and while informal, it does have its formal elements to it. But one thing you do after a call is you sit down and you say, what happened here? What are we going to do?
Debrief, yeah.
Well, it's a matter of what went well, what could have gone better. What other people need to know that we learned here?
Yeah.
Who needs to know it?
Yeah.
And that's how these things keep going. So the kitchen table in a firehouse is more than a place to eat. It's the center of all kinds of interactions and relationships and development. Interesting enough, by the way, it's also the riskiest part of the job. I'd mentioned to your reporter that having asked graduating cadets once about what do you think the most dangerous thing you're going to do would be, and they would all mention all kinds of things. And they told them, nope, it's going to be eat lunch. Because basically speaking, the leading cause of on-the-job death for firefighters is cardiac related. And teaching you CPR doesn't help prevent cardiac disease. You have to start working on that in your 20s to be healthy in your 60s. So we've also put a lot of attention into building things that help them do that.
Take care of themselves.
And one of the interesting things is what goes on a firehouse table these days really looks nothing like what it did 20 years ago. There used to be a joke about vitamin G, grease.
Yeah.
And
something deep fried.
No, the men and women now are much more health conscious. They take better care of themselves, and that's important because they got to last for the long haul.
Look at the young people as part of the procession here. We're taking a live look. We're going to have cameras along where the procession is going to be going on to show you. And we've been talking about the chances all throughout the week of storms right now, and it looks like that may be holding off, thankfully, where the sun's come out and people are going to be able to take part. But just some little fellas there are going to be able to take part. I think he had fire trucks on his pajamas that he was wearing there. This is a look at what the route's going to look like. You see, and you've been describing this for us, Dr. Gist, how Pleasant Valley Baptist Church there at the very top of your screen, and Station 42, where he was housed, down at the very bottom of your screen.
And then back up to Whitechapel Funeral Home, which is in Gladstone. He was a Northlander, graduated from Park Hill South High School.
You said the whole route's about 27 miles?
27 miles. That's just from the church to the fire station.
Oh, that's just one way.
Yeah.
Yes, each way, essentially.
Yeah. About 30 minutes or so if you were driving normal speed on the interstate, which is not likely what we're going to see today.
No, this will be a measured procession. Remember, there will be dozens of vehicles in this procession.
Yeah.
And making it safe for everybody in the procession and everybody on the highway is another big concern that goes into the planning.
And the members of the community who came out just to pay their respects, talk a little bit about what that means for the family and the members of the department to see people come out like that.
It's an awesome sight to see from the procession itself. That's where you really understand that people have taken this moment out of the day to say thank you.
Stopping for a moment.
Yes. And they've waited there probably for some time for you to get there. And it meant enough to them that they did.
It occurs to me that the number of times we have all pulled over because an ambulance or fire truck is coming while doing its job, and to get out of the way of that. And this is like an even stronger signification, I think, of what that is.
And that's a critical moment. It's critical to the family. It's critical to his colleagues. And I think it's critical to the community as a whole. You know, to know that these things draw us together.
Let's get to Charlie Keegan, who's been live outside the church for the last several hours, where that procession is getting ready to begin. Charlie.
Lindsay, Taylor, yes, we're seeing everyone kind of leave the area here around the church, going to their cars, going to their ambulances, fire trucks, pumper trucks, and starting to get prepared for that procession. While all this is happening, though, we have seen some Liberty Fire Department vehicles come. There did appear to be some sort of medical emergency that folks were responding to. We saw some KCFD firefighters run to their truck and then enter the church. So some fire trucks are arriving for a very different purpose than what the rest of the procession here is going on for. But we have seen trucks from all over the Kansas and Missouri side of this area, of our area, and then from as far away as St. Louis. I think I might have even seen a truck from Illinois earlier coming here to show their respect for Graham Hoffman. I had a chance to speak with a battalion chief here at KCFD, and he really told us about how strong a family this fire service, this emergency responder family is, and why it's no surprise that so many people are driving miles and miles and miles to come to this funeral for someone that a lot of them had never even met. Take a listen to what Battalion Chief Michael Hopkins told me earlier today.
It is one big family, and when one department is suffering, we step up and help one another, as you can see here today with all the different departments that are showing up. So, you know, as hurtful as today is, it's also heartwarming to know that you have those other departments and your other brothers and sisters to lean on.
Everyone needs someone to lean on right now, and it was impressive to hear all the descriptions during the funeral of Graham Hoffman, from calling him a hero to a walking angel. Mayor Lucas, what stood out to me is Mayor Lucas is a guy who uses a lot of big words, right? He's not afraid of the dictionary, the thesaurus. And at the end of his talk about Graham Hoffman, he just said, Graham was a really cool guy. Just put it in kind of plain English, as simple as it needs to be said right there. That's the kind of person we're dealing with, the kind of person that KCFD has lost in this tragedy, the kind of person that they're now going to remember and honor, first with this procession and then in the days and weeks and months to come. So like we said, right now folks are starting to get in position. We have definitely first responders that are here. We have also different clubs and groups, like a group of Jeep drivers who are all getting set up to be a part of this procession. And hopefully it'll get started in the not too distant future here. I'll get it back to you guys in the studio.
All right, Charlie, thank you. Obviously, we don't know the details of what the medical situation is, but I can't think of a better symbolism there for what this is and what these, I mean, in the midst of what they're doing and all that they're doing. Oh, by the way, here's someone who's in trouble and needs our help right now.
And frankly, you're just never off the clock.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If somebody is in need, you stop and tend to that.
So the procession is getting ready to start here in about 7 minutes. We've detailed exactly how that's going to go. We're going to continue live coverage all throughout the procession and bringing you lots of different viewpoints of what that's going to look like. Our own Abby Dodge is not far from where Charlie is standing, along where that route is going to be. I believe she's where the route will get on to 35 later this afternoon. Abby, tell us more about what you're seeing, and are people lining up?
Yeah, hey Taylor, we're giving you guys a little bit of a different vantage point here. You can see just how many pumper trucks, ambulances are all at this funeral over here in Liberty. We see many of them from the Kansas City, Missouri Fire Department, but also some pumper trucks and ambulances from Belton Fire Department as well, both cities that Graham Hoffman has served in. And I also want to talk to you guys a little bit about the showing of support. Obviously, we saw during the funeral that it was packed full of supporters, but out here on the sidewalks outside of this funeral, we also see lines of people out here. We were over here earlier this morning when it was raining, and I was worried, oh man, will there be enough people out here to show support? As soon as those clouds parted ways, we just saw people slowly start to trickle along these sidewalks, and now they're almost completely full. I know that's something that you all have been talking about, the show of support in the community, and is most definitely strong here. I talked to one woman who has connections to the fire departments in Kansas City, Missouri, and here's what she had to say about why she came out here today.
It was a very sombering moment. I knew that he was very young. He had put his life on the line just trying to help a young woman that needed help, and I think that's what's hard. Not everybody is capable of doing that and putting their life out there to support and help others.
It's something that so many of us take for granted, and I can hear sirens right now behind me. I don't know if that means things are moving forward or if there's that medical emergency that they're still dealing with here, but lots of people very capable. I was talking to a woman earlier, lots of people dressed in fire department gear out here as well. One woman said that she's a volunteer in a nearby firehouse, and she actually came from work to watch this procession take place. So Graham's life has touched more than just those who worked with him. Back to you, Lindsay and Taylor.
All right, Abby, thank you very much. I mean, look at the line of people, all ages.
A lot of people out there to say goodbye.
Just prepared just to take time out of their day for someone who served.
Again, we've been on the air since 1 o'clock when that funeral started earlier, and if you missed any part of that, always during these memorial services is that last call and the bell service that is offered for the person who has died. That's the last part of the funeral and memorial there that just wrapped up about an hour ago. If you missed it, we'd like to replay that for you now.
In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was the bell that signaled the beginning of that day's shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which summoned these brave souls to fight fires and place their lives in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizen. To symbolize the devotion that these brave souls had for their duty, a special...
We wanted to come back to this because the procession has started right now. Look at all of the members of law enforcement at the beginning of this.
This is all police there in front getting ready for part of it, just to guide them and escort where that boy is going to go. You can see there, we were describing the ladder trucks there, that massive American flag is what they'll be driving under as they leave the church and start off on this long procession that we expect to take maybe a couple of hours as they go, because they will be taking their time. You see there the main truck there in front with carrying the case on, and I believe the limo behind with the family, like you were describing, Dr. Yes, that's likely where they are, right behind that truck. And even the black fabric wrapped around the truck, signifying what it's doing today. Very
Covering
different
the lights
than it
too?
does.
Yes, the lights are closed. Notice also that this is actually his pumper. This is pumper 42.
This was his truck, yeah.
Yes.
I noticed that draping on station 42 as well.
Yes. Unfortunately, we experience this often enough that that material is on hand.
Kept ready.
Yes.
And we mentioned that obviously we've got a long way to go in this procession. If we can, while I'm mentioning, we can take it live again at station 42, because when we took that a moment ago getting ready for this procession to start, there were already members of his firehouse outside waiting, ready to go. Obviously, they're going to be expecting that procession to go right by them, but they were already ready, and they're a good probably half hour away from it being there at this point, ready to say goodbye to their compatriot.
Dr. Gist, you talked about how you'd been a part of, unfortunately, many of these at your time with the department. Talk about the relationship with the police department and wanting to be there and serve in this capacity as well.
The relationship with the police department has always been an excellent working relationship, In these situations, it is really superlative. There are many things, of course, as uniformed public servants that hold law enforcement and fire together, but the mutual respect you see at this time.
Now, obviously, this is a long route we've been describing, and so during the course of our coverage, you may see some of our own cameras that are out there, but right now you're looking at a scout cam, and there'll be a lot of these. And obviously, Lindsay and I are very familiar with these. We talk about these every weekday morning with Danielle Leon when she's going through. This is our way of seeing the city. And today it's our way of seeing what this procession is going to look like as it makes its way through the miles and miles of this procession throughout the afternoon.
You're just seeing the beginning of it getting off onto I-35 there, right as they're leaving the church. I-35, which runs through and past Liberty, south past North Kansas City, then Kansas City, eventually onto 71, and then past Station 42.
You mentioned, Dr. Giss, the hope of something like this, and as far as what impact it might have on the layperson who's driving by, somebody who is, it's a Friday afternoon, the sun's out, is out shopping, is out, gone to lunch with a family, that kind of thing. Somebody who sees this today, and not just watching on television, but sees this, look at this, the people that have gotten out of their cars. The hope is that when they put their head on their pillow tonight, they will spend just a couple of seconds even thinking about what they saw and who this man was and who the men and women are that do this every day. I would think that's the hope of something like this.
Absolutely. And those people getting out of their cars, that's the kind of symbol of respect you notice.
Yeah.
It's
powerful.
They might not have planned that today.
No, but I'm here and I'm going to show this moment of respect. This whole circumstance serves so many different functions, but one of them is to do exactly what you mentioned, to allow the community to appreciate for a moment not just what firefighters do for them, but more importantly, what their commonwealth in Kansas City means to them. This is an exceptional city. Like every other major urban area, of course we have our issues. But what makes Kansas City unique is the things that hold people together, the positive commonalities. And you see that in who these people are and why it is that they choose to serve here.
And not just local Kansas City Fire Department vehicles, but the ever-present American flag as part of this.
How appropriate is it? I don't live in Missouri, I live on the Kansas side, but how appropriate would it be for me or anybody else watching today to, you know what, I've got a fire station just a couple miles down the street from me. In memory of Graham, I would like to take them something. Is that something that would be welcomed by fire stations all across the metro area?
Typically, yes.
Yeah.
Not for levity at this moment, but we use a lot of that just to stay sane.
Yeah.
As long as you're bringing food, you're probably welcome at any fire station in the United States.
I was going to say.
But the thought that you do it today, think about what you do if there's a death in your family, in your neighborhood. First thing you do is you show up and leave a casserole.
Yeah.
Now, those are the things that say, really, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't have any words.
But I'd like to care for you.
But I have this.
Well, and Lindsay and I are both parents.
It's part of me. I'd like for you to
young
have
children. I think of everything almost as a teaching moment, and how that would be to take your kids to a firehouse right now or in the next week and say, remember that you may not have heard this, guys, but a firefighter died in Kansas City earlier this week. We have a fire station just down the road. Let's take some cookies over to them and tell them thank you for what they're doing.
Sure.
I know what that would. I know that would stick with my kids if we did something like that.
Yeah, I would emphasize, Tay, that the thing important for the kids to understand is not so much that we're doing this because a firefighter died, but we're doing this because they take care of you every day.
Yeah.
Go back to Mr. Rogers. Mm-hmm. Look for the helpers.
Look for the helpers, that's right.
Look at this formation of police and how far in front of the rest of the procession they are to make way on this journey of miles and miles. I mean, how difficult is it when the station they're serving?
You mentioned the planning that goes into it. When they've got to go this far, that's a lot of work.
Believe me, these guys and gals on those motorcycles have always impressed me. Mm-hmm. They are.
Look at the people pulling over. This is Church Road on the up higher on this screen. It's a busy road in Liberty. They're getting ready to go under 152 where you see some of the fire department's trucks parked too, but people pulling over that don't have to, just to take a minute. The procession's still leaving Pleasant Valley Baptist Church. Do you know how long the procession itself, like the number of vehicles typically might be, or?
Because people are invited to take part if they were there at the funeral, I assume?
Right. Generally, the departments who want to participate in the procession will contact early, and that way there'll be a chance to plan.
You mean like
what's
other
going to
cities'
take.
departments may
Yes.
say, we'd like to put a truck in there?
Looks
Precisely.
like maybe
Yeah.
some of what we're seeing right now, yeah.
Yeah. And I have seen them up to, certainly 10, sometimes as many as 100 vehicles.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you can imagine how interesting it is to try to keep all those ducks marching in the same direction at the same speed.
And I can tell these are from other parts of, like
Yes.
maybe not Kansas City. It's
Right,
hard to see
right.
what-
You told us beforehand people come from all over the country
Right.
for these memorial services.
Blue, for example, is probably Gladstone. They're unique in that respect.
Lexington, they're black trucks.
Yeah. But it also gives you a sense of the diversity of agencies and people who make up the American Fire Service.
Yeah.
As I mentioned to you, I think off camera, there are 31 to 33,000 fire departments in the United States. We don't even know exactly how many. But
some of them are like small enough they've got one truck, one ambulance, one fire truck,
there are
that kind of thing.
some that cover only 1 square mile.
Yeah.
Wow.
And as I mentioned, 85% of the fire departments in the country are these volunteer agencies, smaller ones. Indeed, there are only probably 300 that are in what we call the metro classification, departments very large like ours. But career firefighters, for example, protect better than 53% of America's population, but the majority of fire departments, the majority of territory is covered by volunteers.
Look at this procession. You see the people there pulled over on the side of the roads or just even in the middle of the road to honor what's going on. No, I grew up in a situation just like you're describing. I grew up in a town of 1,200 people, and I remember the first time I heard volunteer firefighter, and like that was kind of a foreign term. I didn't understand that that's not their full-time job because there's not necessarily a full-time situation. They do other jobs, and then when 911 is called, they're going to go and take part in this.
But bear in mind that while our people are doing 350, 400 calls a day, many of those departments do less than 100 calls in a year.
Yeah.
And yet they have to be ready on any given day to do everything that we do.
Yeah.
Wow.
What's your reaction to all these lights and all these trucks as you watch them going down the highway?
There's a sense of honor to have been sort of the odd uncle at their Thanksgiving dinner for 28 years. But it's also just a testament to the fact that there are good people in this world.
Yeah.
We lose sight of that. Every day, Kansas Cityans will listen to you talk about who got killed overnight.
Yeah.
All those things, but just remember in every one of those, there are these police officers and firefighters who are coming in to try to make it better so it doesn't splash over on you.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing there is a testament to who they are, how many they are, how dedicated they are to this.
I'm going to go back out to Charlie Keegan, who's been outside the church. Oh, Charlie, I see people now, looks like they're kind of standing watch behind you.
That's exactly a good way to put it, Lindsay. During that time where the procession was going by, everybody kind of just stopped, right? Dead in their tracks to just make a very intentional effort to respect the procession as they went by. Now we're getting a few kind of regular cars, not so much the fire trucks and the police cars, but folks are starting to stream out. But when Graham Hoffman's body went by here on that fire truck. A lot of the firefighters and attendants, came at a salute, put their hands up by their head, and were just as respectful as possible. And the show of cars coming is incredible. Overland Park, Olathe, sheriff's deputies, fire trucks from far and wide, all coming here to share their respects for Graham Hoffman. And really, the coordination that goes into putting this procession together is unbelievable, and they are out and going now. So it's been neat to see it kind of take off from right here outside the church. Lindsay.
We've been talking about the what goes into this procession for a moment. I hope I'm not putting our team on the spot now. If we could talk about Graham again for a moment. We just went throughout the entire memorial there talking about who he was. We've been gathering stories all throughout the week of people talking about who he was as a person. Let's share some of the thoughts we've gathered this week of who Graham Hoffman was as we honor him in death today.
They're working to gather that right now. It's something Mayor Lucas had said, because he had the chance to talk to so many people who knew and loved him, was the eagerness to learn, to grow, to be a leader. We heard time and time again.
I reached out to several of Graham Hoffman's friends, and this is still understandably very difficult for them to process and wrap their minds around. I did get to speak with a childhood friend of his who reflected on 20 years of memories they got to share.
He knew how to light up a room. He knew how to make everybody laugh and feel welcomed. It was an honor to be his friend.
From grade school to adulthood, Graham and Jordan Fitch were inseparable. He described him as the kind of friend who would always pick up.
He was the one we could count on to make us laugh. Not that he was a goofball or a class clown or anything like that, but he just knew how to cheer us up and when we were down.
Graham, according to Fitch, decided to pick up an extra shift the day he was killed.
It sucks, having to get that phone call. I would say he was doing what he loved.
While many people remember the Graham who wore a KCFD uniform, he remembers a friendship that could have lasted a lifetime.
Just being able to go and help people when at times of crisis. He had the brains to do so, the heart to do so.
Alyssa Jackson, KSHB 41 News.
Again, we've been gathering those thoughts all throughout the week of exactly who Graham Hoffman was. We'll continue to share more as we watch that procession move throughout the city. There it is again. We're showing you the reaction. To me is always the strongest part. Look how far back the vehicles on the other side of the road have stopped to watch this.
You see their lights flashing too, just taking a moment. And maybe this is something they didn't know was happening today.
Yep.
And right now they might be learning so much about him. This is southbound on I-35 headed toward downtown. You can see the skyline and the trees over on the right. This is just in the Liberty area as that procession makes its way down to Station 42 in South Kansas City.
Off Red Bridge Road, we've talked about all throughout the week, and including with Dr. Giz today, that this is almost geographically the furthest you can get from point A to point B in Kansas City. It's the entire north of Kansas City down to South Kansas City, really sharing the breadth of how much work he did here in town.
One of the most impactful parts of sitting here, the funeral, was hearing from his brother.
Yes.
I cannot imagine how difficult it must have been, but wanted to let all of us know just a little bit more about the brother he loved and looked up to so much. So we wanted to take a moment while we watch this procession make its way down to Station 42 to let you listen in again to how his brother is honoring his legacy and sharing a bit of Graham with us.
So this week is about Graham. The focus on him has been something that we can't even describe, and just the focus that our family has felt from all you guys out there has been something that I've tried to put into words, and it's something that I've had a problem with, and it's just we just love you guys so much. We love everything that everyone's done for us. For a second, though, I want the full focus of the room to be on a couple names here. FAO Michael Young, Captain Anthony Jackson, Division Chief Paramedic Reggie McKeithen, and Paramedic Dustin Donovan. These 4 men are heroes. They gave our family a chance to touch Graham's warm body, feel his presence, get a chance for us to give closure and say goodbye to a person that we love so much. And that's just something that I don't know how to do anything but say thank you for. So if you guys are in the room, I hope you guys feel the focus of today, and just there's nothing I can say but thank you. Nobody handles death well. Death is hard, but in these last few days, this has made me do some serious self-reflection. I think me and everyone that knows Graham, all of our friends, want to be better people because of him, and just what he has done and who he is as a person has shown us all how to live and be better. When we were younger, me and Graham didn't live together. When I was in high school, we missed a couple years, and I know a few of my friends out there have had a conversation with me about how many times I wanted to tell him how much he meant to me, and I just thought now would be as good of a time as ever to speak those words. And Graham is my younger brother, and I've looked up to him for more than 10 years. He's someone that, he is a walking angel. He was always the person that will, people always say he'll give the shirt off his back. He is the person that would have done that. You never think you're going to have to bury your little brother. There's a million memories that I've thought of what I want to, have you guys remember with me. And I just always, the first things that come to mind is how much of a competitor he used to be. When we were younger, my dad he built these little mini golf holes. We had them underneath my mom's porch, and me and Graham would spend hours out there just trying to beat each other on these little mini golf holes. We had a wiffle ball field in the backyard, and my dad made everything we wanted to do happen. We had lines mowed out. There was a home run line. Me and Robert and Braden and Kincaid used to keep track of home runs back there, and it was a competition every year. We loved it. Camping every year. He wanted to have a fire out back. We would just torment the neighbors, ding-dong ditch everybody. It was a great time. My dad's friend Edgar we used to play this dumb game in their garage. It was called plunger ball. We'd tape a square on the floor and flip a plunger and try to land it in this little square. And Graham was so good at it. He was just so good at everything he did. There was nobody better to hit a home run in softball than Graham Hoffman. He was the king dinger. He would let one rip. On the golf course, he'll take his shoes off and get barefoot, and he'll shoot an 82 like it was no problem. He was one of the best golfers around. We all loved that. And just moving forward, thinking about life and how things are going to continue without him has been something that I've really been trying to think about, just what the future is going to look like. And I think that's something that we're probably going to all struggle with for a long time. We're all going to miss Graham, but I just want to take these time to just make sure you look at your loved ones and just tell them that you care, because they're here today, gone tomorrow. You don't think it's going to happen to you until it does. And I want to thank every single one of you for coming in here today. I've been looking forward to this moment all week, to just have a time to just speak to all of you guys. And just seeing all you guys look up here at me just makes me feel so good. And just having these fleeting moments of bliss are so good for me and my family. So I just want you guys to know how much it means to us. Everything you guys have all done has been wonderful. So we love you, and just thank you so much, okay?
That was his older brother talking. I'm so grateful we got to hear so much more about who he was and the fun moments they got to share.
And I hope that our viewers understand that it's not lost on us, the difficulty, one, of having to talk about that at a funeral.
Oh my
and
goodness.
then, by the way, you're also on television with thousands of people watching and bringing that message. But I love that he was saying how much he was looking forward to that moment where you do get a chance to say thank you to all the people that have reached out, and he's getting this kind of wide angle lens, so to speak, of being able to reach out and tell people thank you for everything that you have done over the course of the last week. I mean, we've gotten the samples of that just in the amount of money raised for the shirts and that kind of thing that will go to his family. The response has been pretty overwhelming.
23,000 shirts are going to say Pupper 42,
right,
Station
with his
42.
name on it.
They've raised $320,000 so far for that family, a firefighter-owned embroidery business. Because you can imagine people just want, how can I help?
Right.
What can I do? I can at very, very, very least buy a T-shirt and help.
We've continued to have our live coverage and teams kind of spread out all across the area there at the funeral, and they're part of the procession. Let's get back to 41 reporter Abby Dodge, who's standing right near where there were people lined up. Abby, can you describe at all the reaction people had as the procession went past them?
Yeah, of course, Lindsay and Taylor, we've been talking about moments all day. The moment that his family was able to speak to the first responder community, and we've also been able to share moments that are memories that people have had with Graham throughout our coverage this week. But I'm going to take some time to talk to you about the moment that community shared just along the sidewalk out here across from the Pleasant Valley Baptist Church where that funeral was just held. The street was lined with people. I didn't expect to see so many people just right outside of where this funeral took place. There were people dressed in KCFD shirts, KCPD shirts, people from fire departments, police departments across the metro area that said, I snuck away from work today just so I could come here and be here for 30 minutes and then I'm headed back. Or people that brought their kids from the school drop-off line to try and watch and share this moment together, a moment that many Kansas Cityans will remember for a very long time. Lindsay and Taylor.
All right, Abby, thank you very much. There's a long line of people standing next to her of all ages, kids in pajamas.
Yeah.
Just get them out here and have a teaching moment.
Yeah. Speaking of teaching moment, Dr. Yes, you've been so kind to join us with your time sitting throughout this, and we're looking live here at Station 42, his home station where he's going to be. They're going to be driving by there in not too long. You see Alyssa Jackson's going to be part of our live coverage there as they continue to make their way there. But the teaching moment that I think of here, Chief Grandison, as he was giving his remarks during the memorial, he said something to the effect of "Be like Graham" is a message that he's hoping people will take from this. Obviously, no firefighter ever wants to lose a brother or sister in these moments, but it seems to me in listening to Chief Grandison that there is a hope that they will take some aspect of who they were and what made them great at their job and carry that forward to make them a little bit better at what they're doing every day.
That's really what we hope firefighters everywhere do in these situations. Take forward the best parts of that service and pass it on to the next person who needs you.
Yeah.
And remember what the commitment means. Remember why you're here. Not just the risk of what you do, but more importantly, the meaning that it has for the people you do it for.
You're looking live at the procession on 35 southbound, leaving from Liberty down to South Kansas City, and this is just past 435, if you're familiar.
Look at the overpass there.
Exactly. Look at the overpass. You see them outlining the bridge there. You see one of the pieces of fire truck equipment with the lights going.
Yeah.
So they can be there to pay their respects. I mean, I was thinking through, this is essentially my drive to work
Your
every day.
neighborhood. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How many bridges and overpasses there are along that route. Is that part of the planning of the procession? You want a presence at every single spot you can?
And it's also an opportunity for those who remain on duty to position themselves in their district.
And also be ready to go.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Where they're able to pause for a moment, assuming nothing's going to happen, but if they get
Right,
a call,
show
they
their
can leave that
respect and they can go wherever they need to go from that location.
Yeah. Just be there while the procession is going by.
Procession that is over 20 miles long.
Yeah, we've shown you the map before of you can't really get further in Kansas City from point A to point B of where he's going to go. We started up there in Liberty at the church, going all the way down to South Kansas City off Red Bridge Road where Station 42 is. We showed just a moment ago, we showed Alyssa who's down at that location at Station 42. Obviously that's where they're all headed. I wonder if we can ask Alyssa to join us for a moment and just give us an idea of what's going on there at his home station to describe what that situation is like. We've been able to see people already outside waiting for them to come by, Alyssa.
Yeah. Hi, Alyssa.
Hey guys, yeah, in the past probably half an hour now, we've seen people slowly coming up, neighbors, KCFD, and other surrounding departments coming just to show their respects. And if you take a look behind me, Station 42 is definitely a symbol of mourning and grief today, with the black ribbon draped across the fire department. But another thing that we see on the lawn, Forever Grateful, kind of describes the sentiment out here from some people and also from some of his fellow firefighters. Just the fact that the sacrifice they know they have to make is ultimately the last moments that he had here with KCFD. But just the sentiment as well that Graham is someone, just from the descriptions that we've heard, who did this job because he wanted to have a selfless act of service. And as we wait for this procession to come through, it's just beautiful to see the people who are just coming out here to show KCFD that they have their backs. So guys, definitely somber out here, just like in the funeral services that we just watched, but as they come through, hoping that KCFD feels the love from the community today.
Alyssa, kind of tell us a little bit about where, if somebody's never driven by Station 42, I see houses right next to it.
It's a neighborhood, right?
It's right in the middle of a neighborhood. Are you seeing neighbors come out? What are you seeing?
Yeah, there's some neighborhoods over here. Some people who live down the street. I actually just spoke with a woman who's right next to me who has brought water to the fire station before when they've been out working in the hot sun. So just the love that they have shown KCFD before tragedy is something that's beautiful to witness here.
All right, Alyssa Jackson live for us there. We will check back in with Alyssa as we get closer to that procession hitting his home station there of 42. But I would ask our viewers for a moment just to kind of think about, if you can, picture the station that is closest to you in your neighborhood, and think of, if you can, how many doors are on the front of that building, because that to me is a quick way to think about just how many fire units are housed and how large a station is it, because I've been in my share of that have 4 or 5 doors, large stations that are going to be there. There's just 2 doors on the front of that station. That is a small station tucked away in a neighborhood. As I've said multiple times this morning, including Monday morning when I was live out there, you don't know it's there unless you're looking for it. It's tucked away.
Yeah, you had mentioned earlier about how far south it is. I can only think of one Kansas City station further south.
Okay.
And that would be on Blue Ridge, out toward Martin City. But this is nestled in an older, early suburban neighborhood. Mm-hmm. It is, just to help you put it in context, it's Red Bridge Road, maybe 3/4 mile to a mile east of 71.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's right over in that area, south of 435. Red Bridge Road is, I think, 112th Street, something like that.
Well, and it's heartening to me to hear Alyssa describing a woman that she spoke to that has already been by there in the past to bring their water. Like, I have a strong feeling that they're going to have a lot of, I'm sure they have had support all throughout the week, but there's going to be more of those moments that we were talking about just a little bit ago of, hey, I just want to stop by and bring you something. I wanted to bring a casserole. I wanted to see how you guys are doing.
Well, I hope so, because, after these,
a loss like this.
Well, the area around a fire station is very much a part of the firefighters' neighborhood, and they know it as a neighborhood would be known. And we were talking earlier once about things that these men and women do that you never hear of. I recall early in the time that I was deputy director being called out by a company in Midtown. They had found a woman who had just called for some help, but her son, who was her caretaker, had kind of fallen off the map for one reason or another.
Okay.
And in essence, they had come in, cooked her breakfast, helped clean her house a bit, and waited until I could get there and we could get a social worker from Senior Services. I find out other guys, they go over every Wednesday and take a woman's trash out for her because she couldn't manage it herself. These are the little things that come from that neighborhood relationship, and that's a big function of your fire department.
caring for the community.
Sure.
What you were just looking at, guys, do you know which camera that was? Because the procession had not made it down to wherever that was, where there were fire engines on the overpass bridge there. And Brighton. Okay, so that's just a little bit further down the way,
Yeah.
and it looked like you were saying, maybe one of those trucks had to go on to a call. It hadn't made it that way, but it looks like they had to leave.
Right, the Brighton Avenue viaduct, just on the south side of that is Fire Station 37, so it may have been one of the
Had work to do,
37 units.
apparently, this afternoon.
Yeah.
But, you know, it strikes me, talking about the neighborhood aspect of Station 42 in this case. I mentioned earlier, you and I, during Christmas time, were out there doing live shots at these firehouses. And the one that I was at this year, I told them where I live, and it just happened to be my home firehouse. And I told them where I live, the intersection where I live, and they said, yeah, we're your guys. Like that, they knew the neighborhood. Yes. They knew the map of what their coverage area is, like the back of their hands. And they said, yeah, if you ever called 911, it'd be us at your house. And they said that, the pride that they said that to me of, if you ever need something, it's going to be me that comes to your house, was really, really stuck with me, the way they described it.
I'll give you an example, just an interesting little story from way back when about just how well a lot of these folks know their area.
Yeah.
This is when I had just moved up to Briarcliff, 2 small kids. I get a call at midnight from a chief dispatcher, and what he says is, "Get up, Doc, you're going to work." And okay, where am I going? He says, "Well, you just moved in there. Tell you what, back out of your driveway, make a left, go up to into the street, make another left, make a right at the 4-way stop, and keep driving until you see a lot of red lights."
Not an address, turn by turn.
Yeah.
Right. It was that, it's that understanding of where you are. Dispatchers will be telling guys on the way to a fire where the fire hydrants are adjacent to that address. Knowing where things are and how to get to people is critical in what we do. We have a commitment to be on your front step in 6 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And we cover 117 square miles of territory.
It looks like the procession just crossed the river. What we were seeing now is when they were going by maybe the 10th Street overpass on 35 onto 71 now. Yeah. That procession leaving the church about 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, right at.
Yeah.
I'm still just so thankful. We talked about it all throughout the week that there's not a downpour going on right now. There'd been chances of, and I don't want to suggest necessarily it would have been worse off or fewer people would have come out, but that's a lot to ask for people to come out and stand on the side of the road or park in the middle of a downpour. And I'm very, very thankful that held off, so people are able to take their time and say goodbye without having to care for getting out of the rain.
Right. And right now, everybody involved with it who heard you say that is going, "Oh, please don't jinx it."
Right. knock on the glass desk here that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that they told us earlier, just again to give you a context on Station 42, it's Ruskin High School, I believe, is not far from there. It's Hickman Mills and Ruskin Heights neighborhood, exactly where Station 42 is. If you're not familiar with that, that's where they're headed this morning or this afternoon to take Graham Hoffman by his home station one more time.
So many trucks are a part of this. Just the quick count we could do earlier was at least 30, and from all over.
Charlie Keegan describing where all they were from.
Yeah, and we saw Lexington, we saw Overland Park, Olathe, and they're just passing downtown.
Yeah, downtown. There we go. Just
and Lindsay mentioned this a moment ago, but just the space between the police escort and just now you can see the next flashing light coming. But I mean, that's quarter mile almost between where the last motorcycles are going past into what's coming up behind them. It's a long leeway of, please be aware, here we're coming.
Yes.
You're just crossing the river right now. You see the Bond Bridge.
Right, and that makes sure that the officers who are along the route can close those exits before the procession gets there.
That's a lot. There are a lot.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. Yes, there's a lot of logistics that goes to this. And with true credit to the traffic division of KCPD, you will notice that it is flowing just in precision
haven't been any problems at all
clockwork,
so far.
Smooth flow.
But like you can see, I mean, even people standing there on the overpass.
Yes.
We mentioned we have reporters kind of live along the route there. Are there any that we can check in at this moment just to see how things are moving along? We've spoken to Charlie Keegan and Abby Dodge. We're going to work on getting a report. I know that we have our Todd Palmer out there kind of moving along the route. We may check in with him in just a moment. It's a long way logistically to keep track of all this and to keep our team doing that. We're proud to be able to bring you coverage all throughout the afternoon of the memorial and this procession. We hope that you'll be doing exactly what we've described through our coverage this afternoon, is whether you're seeing this in person or you are about to head out, you drive by it and you think, I'm going to see that, or you're watching for just a few minutes here, that you will pause and think about not only Graham Hoffman, of course, he and his fire team and his family, the entire Kansas City Fire Department, but if you don't live in Kansas City, your Olathe Fire Department, your Gardner Fire Department, your Raymore Fire Department, whoever you are responding to and who would respond to you, take a moment to think of them and what they're doing every day and every night.
And if you want to learn more about Graham, we have been talking to people in his life all week long. We've been sharing stories about the wonderful and dedicated person he was. Look at the crew members standing on top of the fire department, the fire truck, saluting. Let's get to Caroline Hogan. Caroline, what are you seeing? Where are you?
Hey, Lindsay and Taylor. I'm out right on the corner of where 435 and Bannister Road hit. So I'll take you behind me. You can see just kind of the array of highways. And we've been out here for maybe an hour and a half now, and not a lot of people have come through. It's kind of an awkward area where they're going to come down 71, down Bannister Road, and back onto 435. However, there is one woman that's out here. Her name's Erica, and she told us she's a fire mom, a fire wife. She has two people in her family that are part of the fire department, and she said she was able to run off of work and come and support. She was watching the funeral at work today, and you know, it broke her heart. There's also some police officers around the area getting ready to jump into the procession as well. I talked to them and they said, you know, they're not part of our immediate group, yes, but we do work with them a lot and we see them on a daily basis. And so when one of them gets hurt, all of us are hurt. Definitely a somber mood out here for sure. Hoping to see some more people get out here too to support, especially on this overpass here. But, you know, we're still waiting for that procession to come by. So as we wait, I'm going to pass it back to you guys.
We'll probably be there in the next maybe 15 minutes or so. And we've been relying on this series of cameras. And right now there is a space for the procession where we're not going to be able to see. But we are keeping our eyes on it. And as soon as we can see some of that again, we will be sure to bring that to you.
So we've had a week's worth of coverage to be able to tell you more about Graham Hoffman and who he was and how his department is responding to this tragic loss of life that we saw on Sunday morning. One of those voices we brought you throughout the week was that of his battalion chief. And we'll share that with you again now.
I mean, he's the kind of guy that, you know, you'd love to have a full crew of them.
Battalion Chief Ron Goodwin said Graham Hoffman stood out from day one.
You wanted to be his friend.
Around the firehouse, Hoffman mastered the grill, led debates about the Chiefs, always had his golden retriever by his side, had a reputation for his comedic timing.
Kind of get a jab in on you, and it would take a second to sink in that, like, oh, man, he just got me on that one.
On an ambulance, Hoffman never panicked. Goodwin said Hoffman treated patients with compassion you don't even see from veteran paramedics.
He just had this quiet confidence about himself. He was very hardworking, but he made things look easy.
There was nothing easy about the news Goodwin received Sunday morning. Prosecutors say a patient stabbed Hoffman in the back of an ambulance, killing him. Goodwin joined hundreds of firefighters at the hospital.
I want to go up there and I want to support his family. I never thought we'd be talking about what we're talking about today, though.
Now Goodwin has a black line across his badge, a reminder of the inspiring, magnetic, driven friend he lost.
It's very difficult for me to stand here and do this and talk about, you know, talk about someone I love, man. I mean, especially in such a tragic way.
So we mentioned there, and thanks again to Charlie Keegan, who's been out live for us today and has been a big part of our coverage throughout the week. Dr. Guest is joining us here, a former Deputy Director for Health and Safety with KCFD, just retired a few months ago. And that caught your eye whenever we showed that battalion chief's black badge there, or black banner across his badge. How long will he wear that?
Generally, it's 30 days for a line of duty death.
Okay.
And all members of the department will wear the mourning badge. The mourning bands are often worn in sympathy by police officers and by other departments surrounding as well. But the Kansas City policy has always been 30 days on line of duty death.
And you'll notice a lot of flags at half staff as well, because Governor Kehoe announced yesterday that he was going to be ordering that all across the state for first responders especially. So you'll notice those as you make your way around town today.
Something else we see in these awful situations is the last call. We saw that during the ceremony. If you missed that, we wanted to bring that to you again.
In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was the bell that signaled the beginning of that day's shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which summoned these brave souls to fight fires and place their lives in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizen. To symbolize the devotion that these brave souls had for their duty, a special signal of 3 rings, 3 times each, represents the end of our comrades' duties, that they will be returning to quarters. And so, to those who have selflessly given their lives for the good of their fellow man, their task completed, their duties well done, to our comrades, their last alarm, they are going home.
Firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman. Firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman. The last alarm for firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman has now ended. He has gone home.
Dr. Yes, walk us through that part of the ceremony a little bit. You were talking about, as we got ready for that, some of the more, for lack of a better term, open-ended part of the memorial where people are speaking, that kind of thing, right. But at the end of the service is very regimented about what's going to be done.
Very consistently in firefighter funerals, it is traditional to have this recognition. The bells takes us back into the 1800s.
Wow.
To the telegraph issue. And it's a matter of being consistent with the enterprise across all these ages. That while it is a very, very different enterprise than current firefighters' grandfathers were involved with, still at its heart is the same commitment, the same courage, the same dedication. So these things carry that forward. And then the last alarm is a recognition throughout the agency. Consider it a citywide moment of silence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that radio silence across the
radio
whole.
silence, and everybody stops.
Yeah.
For something
powerful.
that doesn't ever stop.
Very powerful. Another thing, speaking of powerful, is we've talked about all throughout the week the response of people, and not just stopping, saying something, but paying money, contributing money, buying T-shirts. We've talked about this, and even you and I, we have been absolutely bowled over by the response on this.
Thousands. I think at last count, 23,000 T-shirts.
In less than a week.
In less than a week, and that has raised $320,000 for the family. I just saw that update on their social media before we got started here. But it's just incredible.
Yes.
And we've had the chance to talk to that company. So here's Ryan Gamboa with their story.
It's only been a few days since I've been in the E2 T-shirt shop where they're selling these Graham Hoffman memorial shirts. They've reached all 50 states, numerous countries, and raised over $250,000.
Incredible. I've never seen anything like it.
3 days and 23,000 shirts later, Joe Eddings tells me he has his hands full.
Logistically, it's going to be a thing.
Joe and his wife Dawn printed the first batch of Station 42 shirts on Wednesday. Some will go to the Hoffman family and 75 for the Kansas City Royals clubhouse. The rest of us will have to wait, including KCFD firefighter Jamison Baggio, who gave me an update on his fire brothers and sisters.
When somebody doesn't get to go home,
We all feel that.
That love and pain isn't only felt across Kansas City, but in Montana's prairies.
I can't imagine what my family would go through in this situation.
This fundraiser and Graham's impeccable spirit caught Great Falls, Montana firefighter Ryan Olson's attention, one of the many donors across the globe supporting Graham Hoffman's family. I spoke with him on the phone.
Just showing some pride for Station 42 and being able to wear a Kansas City Fire shirt while also supporting a family and giving them just the littlest amount of financial help that I can is, the least that I can do here in Montana.
Although I only worked with Graham once or twice, I mean, he's a great person and he deserves to have his memory continued on, and I know it'll continue on with KSHB and everybody ordering shirts across the country. I mean, his legacy is going to live on.
So when you ask a family business if all the work is worth it, the answer,
But it's going to get done, and we'll be glad to do it.
spoken like a true public servant. In Kansas City, Ryan Gamboa, KSHB 41 News.
It's just profound, really. It's so much more than a T-shirt.
I think if you would ask them at the beginning of the week what they hoped would cover, I don't think in their wildest dreams they would have imagined the number of shirts they were going to sell to be almost more than they can handle.
Because, years from now, you'll see those walking around.
Yes, and already to have people in Montana talking about it, that kind of thing. And I believe those are still available if you're thinking, man, I'd like to have those. We've had throughout the week on KSHB.com a link where you could go and order one of your own. It may take a while to get now at this point, but I believe there's still an opportunity for you to order one of those. We've got looks back on our scout camera now where we actually have some cameras on the procession and where it's headed.
This is the beginning where police have been making the way to make sure that nothing is in the way of this procession that stretches from Liberty down to South Kansas City. Looks like this is 71 around 75th Street, so really well on the way there for this procession that's been going on for about 45 minutes.
And a reminder, they're headed to Station 42, which is Graham Hoffman's home station there off Red Bridge Road down in the Hickman Mills area. So they're making their way there. We've already heard from Melissa Jackson and the people who are there at that station getting ready to welcome him one last time and say goodbye. We've heard her talk to neighbors that have come by getting ready for that. So already a strong outpouring of support. It's been so amazing to see people lined up on the sides of roads, on overpasses, and stopping their vehicles to say goodbye.
Look at this, how long this stretches to. Lights on, dozens of vehicles from various departments as well as KCFD making this 27-mile journey.
And you can see cars on the other side. Some of them start to react and slow down just right there on the scout camera and realize, oh, this is much more than just one fire truck going by.
And we have seen so many times they've gone under bridges where members of the fire department have been out and waiting. And Dr. Gist pointed out something that's so interesting. Of course, they've still working today, so many, so they had to be ready to respond. But they could be along the procession in a place where let them respond to calls quickly.
I think that's one thing that many people overlook about the firefighting career who are not close to it. It's that you always have to be on your A game.
Yeah.
As you noticed at the funeral itself, something can happen right next to you even when you're not the one who's got the call.
We had Charlie Keegan report that there was some sort of looked to be medical emergency right outside the church where it was happening that they had to respond to.
It's a very, very demanding thing, even for people as removed from the day-to-day as I was in my position. I was principal assistant to the fire chief for all these years, so I was out there only if it was something really, really bad. But most of the time my kids were growing up, that still meant you had to take two cars wherever you went, because I could be called away at any time.
And you think about someone who decides to be a paramedic also. I mean, there is nowhere they are not where if something happens and someone, anywhere they are, in uniform or not, needs medical assistance, they have to be ready.
More places than you'd ever know. When somebody asks for help on an airliner, the odds are one of them's a fireman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if you really, if you will stop and think about it for just a second, it goes from going, gosh, I can't believe, to, you know what, yeah, I can. Like, I've been around this instance where I saw somebody respond, or this instance where I saw somebody respond. If you really stop and think about it for a moment, you realize what an impact these men and women have on your life all the time.
And just how much of the community has been touched by this. And if you're sitting there going, well, why is this procession so long? He worked in Station 42. He's from the Northland. He graduated from Park Hill South High School. And one of the stories we were able to do this week, trying to get to know Graham Hoffman better, was talk to one of his former teachers.
I believe we have that story now of the teacher that we spoke to that knew him growing up in high school.
A decade ago, Graham Hoffman was sitting in the classrooms of Park Hill South High School. Today, we're hearing the voice of a former teacher who is reflecting on the lessons learned.
I can't remember a bad day that he had in class, and that's a public speaking course where sometimes you can have some bad days.
For McDaniels, Hoffman's death is a reminder of a valuable lesson.
Cherish life, cherish the people that you're around, because we never know when our moment is going to be our last.
He remembers Hoffman in the classroom.
Being able to get up and give a speech in front of other people takes courage to put yourself out there, and he seemed to be able to do that very well.
According to McDaniels, courage is in Hoffman's essence. Granted, the profession he chose.
Him being a fireman, that's a calling. He wanted to go out there and help people.
A people's person.
I don't think he knew a stranger. People seemed to gravitate towards him.
Now McDaniels is holding on to the memories.
That's what I remember about him. Kid that came in to class each day with a smile on his face.
In Kansas City, Fernanda Silva, KSHB 41 News.
Look at this. The entire time that story was going, we have not changed the camera, and the procession is still going. That's how many vehicles are involved in this as they approach Station 42 in South Kansas City off of Redbridge Road.
I'm just hearing them say they remember somebody who always had a smile on their face. I mean, you can see the motorcycles on the bridge. Oh, I see them on the left there. Yeah, every time we've taken a different camera that has a bridge or an overpass, there's been someone there as they make their way down.
And now we take a look at our cameras here. This is no longer scout cameras we're watching. That is Pumper 42. That is from his fire station that's carrying his casket through the course of this procession as they approach Station 42 in South Kansas City. Again, they've had a long way to go up from the Northland, approaching there. But now you take a live look from our cameras as we get one step closer. You see the limousine there with the family inside.
Look, stopped along the way.
You see, police officers there stopped along the way.
At every single street that crosses,
Just really powerful. Marion Ridge Road, they're going by.
What happens at the station where the person lost was working? I mean, those staff members, I'm assuming, had the chance to go to the service, or someone had to stay behind because you can't leave an entire firehouse.
Most likely, but whoever is staffing the station will be out on the apron saluting.
Somebody has to be there at all times.
Somebody has to be there. Emergencies don't stop just because we're having one of our own.
Right.
Talk a little bit more about just listening to his former teacher talk about somebody who always had a smile on their face and a very emotionally taxing job. How important it was that they brought, like you were talking about earlier, this positive attitude and this helpful attitude and willingness to continue to serve when there are many people who are having their very worst day.
Because I've known my fair share of strong silent type firefighters also. I would think that you would think there's probably got to be a good mix of the guys that smile a little bit more and the guys that don't.
There does have to be a good mix. But remember, he was a paramedic.
Yeah.
Essentially, bedside manner is everything. There's a lot of little things you learn. And I was just thinking of a neighbor whose grandchild had gotten their fingers slammed in a car door and explaining afterward about some of the things I did there. One of them was, yes, I put a splint on her finger. It's not because she really needed it. It's because
She needed comfort.
That helps her know she's been taken care of.
Yeah.
And the good medics learn those things because I was telling my son, who's a surgical resident, after something, he'd called about something he'd had to do. It was difficult. One of the things I had pointed out to him was that, the thing that matters the most in a lot of these contacts is that The people you're talking to will never remember what you say. They will never remember what you did. They will never forget how you made them feel.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And that's what makes a really good medic. Or as I also told Galen when he was in school, a competent physician can treat your condition. A great doctor can treat the patient.
Mm-hmm.
And these are guys and gals who have that understanding and can do it in situations that are not anything like doing it in a hospital.
In a crisis, wherever it happens.
I remember telling a friend who was an obstetrician once, talking about a difficult delivery, telling her that I'd be more impressed if you did it upside down in the back of a wrecked car with a flashlight in your mouth.
Yeah.
That would get my attention.
Right.
You were in a hospital.
Right. Well, and obviously there will be a time to talk later on. We know there's another court appearance coming up next week about the circumstances of his death, but he died in a situation in which he was caring for someone.
Yes.
That was a situation in which he was called to do his job and was supposed to be caring for someone who was injured, and that was what they do 24/7.
Right, and bear in mind, he was not dealing with a major injury.
Right.
The job is probably 80 to 90% compassion. And the issue is he was there trying to take care of somebody's situation, as complicated as it was, at 2 a.m. on the side of a road with a person who was clearly not well, and still trying to make the best contact possible and trying to get her to the help that she needed.
And compassion is just kind of comes out of every, especially during the memorial service, everyone who got up and spoke, we felt that tone of who they were describing whenever they spoke about Graham.
And just like with a doctor, that's the difference between good and great, is compassion.
It's been a while. You mentioned this earlier, but now it's been a couple of hours since we talked about the fact that you just recently retired. And yes, it's a really large department at KCFD, but even you had heard Graham Hoffman's name.
Yes, as I said before, if you hear somebody's name who's only on the job a year or two at my level, it's either really, really good or really, really bad. And I had heard Graham's name more than once, but always in the context of something positive.
Already
something to
standing
look
out.
forward to.
They're sitting his home station. You said they would be out.
They'd be out on the apron.
God, how tough is this day for these men and women that are going to be out there?
Bear in mind
I mean,
that
they've
for
been
the
saying goodbye
majority,
all week, but this is something different.
yes, but just bear in mind, for the majority of the people standing there, this is not their first time. You know, they have, like I said, I was with the department probably over 35 years, 10 years as actually a sort of unpaid consultant for a long time before I went over. And actually, I was only intending to be there 10 months. I went on a sabbatical leave to help with a chief's selection process, but it draws you in because the people are that special. The mission they do is that critical.
Yeah.
And these people have been through it, if they've been as long as I have, 20 times.
We had heard that there might be some bells or something. We just take a second to listen and look live at Station 42. You've been watching the procession for firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman passing by Station 42, where he served in South Kansas City, making a 27-mile journey from the funeral at Pleasant Valley Baptist Church. And that procession is still ongoing. Dozens of cars and vehicles are a part of this.
It strikes me there, a uniform
Yeah.
laying out with those members that are still able to stand there and salute. I suppose that is in recognition of him not being able to be there in person, Dr. Guest.
Precisely.
How difficult for these men and women to stand there in this moment. I mean, they've known this was coming, obviously, for several days now, but this is the culmination of a week's worth of goodbye to stand there as all these officers go by there.
Right, it's a moment of transition, where, as I said earlier, they're transitioning from the ceremony of respect to now dealing with the absence.
If you're just joining us, we've been on live coverage now since 1 o'clock when the funeral began here, as we're joining what would now be our 4 o'clock newscast as the procession continues. It's been going for a little over an hour, making its way from Liberty to this location, which was his home base there at Station 42 off Red Bridge Road in South Kansas City.
And also you see the people who he worked with on the driveway of Station 42, but you see maybe just a little bit of the gray sweatshirt here. There are people standing all around. Some brought American flags. They're standing on the lawn. They're there with their kids. I think you're showing us a little bit of the folks from the surrounding neighborhood who wanted to be here and pay their respects as well.
We want to thank Dr. Guest for being here with us all throughout the afternoon. Thank you for your perspective. Thank you for your time and showcasing what this has been like. I know this has been, you've shown some emotion with us too. This is, even as a recent retiree from the department, this hits home for you as well.
It does. I had said in the last few months before I was leaving that the one thing I hoped for was that I could escape having to do one more of these before I was gone.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to do this with us today and offer this perspective. We would not be able to understand as much without your
insight,
history and insight. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
It's an honor to do that for the men and women with whom I served for so long.
Continuing our coverage now.
Graham took care of folks in times of need. He helped them be safe. He helped them lead exceptional lives. And we will honor his memory. And we will make sure that the world knows about Graham Hoffman.
He was a skilled paramedic that saved many lives while remaining calm in the face of chaos. We honor his legacy when the bells ring, when we roll out the door, every fire you put out, and every patient you tend to. When you provide excellent care, you honor his legacy.
Honoring the legacy of firefighter and paramedic Graham Hoffman.
It was a somber day, but one full of support and love as family and friends and the community gathered to say goodbye. And as you know, Hoffman died in the line of duty this past Sunday.
At his funeral today, we learned more about who he was as a person.
He served the metro area for the past 6 years, the last 3 for the Kansas City Fire Department, and most recently at Station 42 in South Kansas City, where you just saw that procession drive by. Friends and family say he loved his job, and those who worked with him say not only that, he was really good at it.
I remember getting a call from the Belton chief, and he was grumbling to me that I was taking one of his best young men. I was so glad to have Graham on our team. During his time at KCFD, Graham was assigned to Station 4 and Station 42. Graham was a hard worker and continually picked up extra shifts to provide the coverage our citizens deserved. Graham excelled as a firefighter and paramedic. His captains and coworkers often remarked how Graham had the ability to make the most difficult task look easy.
When we were younger, me and Graham didn't live together. When I was in high school, we missed a couple years, and I know a few of my friends out there have had a conversation with me about how many times I wanted to tell him how much he meant to me, and I just thought now would be as good of a time as ever to speak those words. And Graham is my younger brother, and I've looked up to him for more than 10 years. He's someone that, he is a walking angel. He was always the person that will, people always say he'll give the shirt off his back. He is the person that would have done that.
That's his brother there giving those thoughts, emotional thoughts today during the memorial. You see his body being taken out there in the casket. And after that funeral, a long procession began the process of carrying his casket from Pleasant Valley Baptist Church in Liberty all the way down to his station in South Kansas City. And then now they are headed to Whitechapel Funeral Home. Just a few moments ago, they passed his home station, Station 42 off Red Bridge Road. We've been talking about all throughout this afternoon, more than 25 miles from one spot to another.
And it was a long procession and so many people from the community stopping along the way. Friends and strangers gathered to pay their respects.
It makes you realize what they do on a daily basis to support our community and how short life can be. And it just puts a sense of pride that he was willing to put his life on the line to support others. And I think that's the most important.
I want to give you some context and a reminder of what brought us to today. Graham Hoffman and his partner were transporting a patient in an ambulance early Sunday morning when police say the patient attacked Hoffman with a knife. He was taken to the hospital where he died later that day.
So since that day, the community has really stepped up to show its support all throughout the week. Members hung signs, brought food to the station where Hoffman worked, that's Station 42. There have been so many fundraisers already to support his family that have been incredibly successful. One local embroidery and screen print shop owned by a firefighter has sold more than 23,000 of these Graham Hoffman Memorial t-shirts. And in the process of that, selling those shirts all around the world, they've sold more than, or made more than $250,000 for his family.
This is something, these shirts will be around for a long time. You know, people will wear them at the station and they'll, you know, wear them, you know, on their days off, and when other people see it that knew Graham or that are firemen and remember what happened, it's a way to keep him in your mind.
It's absolutely devastating. Our hearts definitely go out to those guys. We get messages like this all the time because this is what we do. But each time it still feels personal to us.
And Hoffman's fellow first responders stepped up today too. Around 15 different fire departments are covering for KCFD today, so people from the department could go to this service to honor Graham Hoffman. They also brought some of their own equipment so KCFD could have some of its own trucks and fire engines and ladder trucks that you saw in that procession.
You just think about the logistics it takes to be ready to do this and to step in and help out the department. Absolutely. Tomorrow, Kansas City area restaurants will come together to honor Graham Hoffman and support future first responders. You're looking at this list of places like Pizza 51, Grand Coffee Company, the Combine KC, several others will donate a portion of their sales directly into a scholarship fund. A full list of all the places can be found on our website if you'd like to take part and go to one of these spots on your Saturday.
A lot of Northland restaurants there. He was a Park Hill South grad, where he grew up. At the end of the funeral today, the International Association of Firefighters presented Hoffman's family with special medals. They then played Hoffman's last alarm, marking the end of service.
In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was the bell that signaled the beginning of that day's shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which summoned these brave souls to fight fires and place their lives in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizen. To symbolize the devotion that these brave souls had for their duty, a special signal of 3 rings, 3 times each, represents the end of our comrades' duties, that they will be returning to quarters. And so, to those who have selflessly given their lives for the good of their fellow man, their task completed, their duties well done, to our comrades, their last alarm, they are going home.
Firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman. Firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman. The last alarm for firefighter paramedic Graham Hoffman has now ended. He has gone home.
And of course, we want to thank you so much if you've taken part in our coverage of honoring Graham Hoffman today, all throughout the week. If you've donated to the family, if you've done any kind of reaching out, those that took moments to stand outside as part of the procession today, we thank you for that. We will have much more about him and the entire community response throughout the rest of our evening newscast here on KSHB 41.
And 4:12 this afternoon, and unfortunately on a day when we've been honoring the life of a first responder.